Okay, ladies and gentlemen, we're going to get started here. Good evening, Democrats.
Good evening, Democrats.
I think I heard a couple people. Let's all unmute. Let's try to hear. We'll unmute. People will hear you in the room. Ready? It's a big holiday. Good evening,
Good
Democrats.
evening, Democrats.
Good evening, Democrats.
Good evening, Democrats.
Good evening, Democrats.
Good evening.
The World Series is on. I get it. Look, welcome everybody in here, out there. It's election week right now. I voted on Monday at the Civic Center. Who here has already voted? Okay, great. So everyone else, you've got a few days. Let's get to the polls. Let's get your ballots in. We've been canvassing for several weeks now. We have 6 days to make sure Prop 50 passes. And if we do that, we have a real chance at winning back the House in the midterms next year. And if we do that, we get to stop a lot of the worst stuff going on. Here's the good news. All the signs are pointing toward a big win for Prop 50. The polling, the fundraising, and most importantly, the lack of activity on the other side. The Republicans are really not, they know they can't win in California. And so all we have to do now is the ballot chase. We are canvassing again on Saturday. All we're doing, we're not convincing anybody of anything at this point. If someone's undecided, we thank them and head out to the next house. If we can get the people who we know are definitely yes on 50 to return their ballots, we win easily. So that's all we're doing on Saturday. If you can join us, 10 a.m. on Saturday, November 1st at Reed Park. It's scientifically proven that voters are more likely to cast their ballot if they talk to someone about voting first. So that's what we're up to in the final days. We had a scheduling conflict for next month's meeting. We're meeting earlier in the month because of Thanksgiving, so November 12th. The November meeting is going to be head down the street on 4th Street. You can basically see it from here at the Professional Development Learning Center. That's 2802 4th Street. Zoomers, you don't have to do anything different, but we won't have the great AV stylings of our friend Nate up in the booth, so you'll have to just bear with us. Next month won't be as high tech, but it's the same time, 6:30 doors open, and there's a big parking lot there too. And at that meeting, we're going to have Stockton Mayor Michael Tubbs, who's running for Lieutenant Governor, as well as Assemblymember Almer Tsuchi, running for Superintendent, and his colleague Mike Gibson, who's running for Board of Equalization, and Eric Strong, who's running for LA Sheriff, and our new Santa Monica City Manager Oliver Chi, who will be presenting the city's Renaissance Plan, which was debuted last night.
Could you say again where it is?
Yes, it's going to be at the Professional Development Learning Center, 2802 4th Street. It's just about, if you go to 4th Street from here, it's about half a block up. There's the entrance in the parking lot. And if you're watching this at home and you have no idea what I'm talking about, when you RSVP to the meeting, we will include a map to make sure that there's no confusion about where it is.
Can you repeat the date?
November 12th.
What time?
At 6:30, doors open, 7 o'clock, we'll be starting the meeting. So that's the plan for next month. That'll be our last meeting of the year. We've got a lot to get to tonight, including 5 guest speakers and some interesting discussions later on in the evening. But before we get to the program tonight, I want to take a moment to recognize someone who's very special to our club. At our executive board meeting this month, we learned that our longtime board member, Dolly Sloan, who's 95 years old, is moving out of Santa Monica next month to be with her family in Portland. And Dolly has been on the board of this club for more than 20 years. That's one of the 2 people who's been on longer than me. But
Is there a way to log
in
into
Democratic
Zoom
politics
while
goes
you're already
way
on the
back
meeting?
before she was on this board. She grew up in the Bronx during the Great Depression tagging along with her father, who was an election captain in the Bronx Democratic Party, as he helped neighbors find jobs and housing and legal support. And from there, she's had a storied political career. She worked with the NAACP. She helped Medgar Evers' family after his assassination. She raged against the Tammany Hall machine and flipped control of a Democratic club leadership, getting rid of the Roosevelt people. Then she went on to organize against the Vietnam War and helping to start Southern California's first community farmers markets. And when she moved to Santa Monica in the late 70s, she started her activism right here at the church in Ocean Park. She's had a lot of leadership on the preservation as chair of the Landmarks Commission, to her decades of service on this club's executive board, for which she was recognized with a very prestigious Lifetime Achievement Award at the 2019 Sammys. Dolly has lived the true meaning of civic engagement, not as an abstract idea, but a lifelong practice, helping others and standing up for democracy. We're grateful for her wisdom, her warmth, her demonstrated commitment to one of my own core beliefs, that the work of democracy never ends. I spoke on the phone with Dolly this evening. You may be wondering, she is not well enough to be here with us tonight. She really wanted to come in person. She also really tried to come on Zoom. She's watching the YouTube recording of this meeting sometime tomorrow. She's there watching it right now. But when we spoke on the phone, I asked her what she wanted to leave everybody with in this club, and she said the most important thing a Democratic club can do is get out the vote. Even in a progressive town like Santa Monica, it doesn't matter. It's about making those relationships with the voters and connecting to them so that we can make that gradual change person by person and keeping the community active and engaged. That's what makes Santa Monica, Santa Monica. So I just wanted to say on behalf of the entire club, Dolly, we love you. We'll miss you so very much, and we wish you all the best on this next chapter in Portland. There couldn't be any place better for you to go than the front lines of the big war that we know is happening in Portland right now. But we're going to win a big one for you here in California next Tuesday, Dolly, and that'll be in your honor. So thank you very much for your service, Dolores Sloan. And so now before we hear from our candidates, we're going to welcome up our programs VP, Michelle Grant, and Leslie Bracker, our co-hosts of the No Kings 2 rally.
Thanks, everyone. So this Sunday, couple programming business first. This Sunday is our fundraiser at Illusion Magic Lounge on 4th Street. There are still some tickets left. I have the QR code here. I will put it back on the table back there, so I hope to see all of you at the fundraiser. We have 8 magicians from the Magic Castle, so it's like being at the castle without the fancy clothes and the big tour, the amount of money it takes to get there. But we really hope to see you on Sunday. Also, the holiday party toy drive will be Sunday, December 7th at 6 p.m. at the Santa Monica Brew Works. So please put that in your calendar. We hope to see you all there. So this is Leslie Brackner, my co-chair for No Kings. No Kings was successful and safe. And I'm so grateful to Leslie and to John and everyone here at the club who volunteered that day. We do need volunteers before that day to help us organize, because we all know No Kings 3 is coming. No date yet, but it will probably be same bat place, same bat channel. Yeah. It's a good location at the Palisades Park. So hopefully, if you're interested in volunteering and helping us organize it, please reach out to me or Leslie or John, and thank you so much. And just one more reminder, the meeting next month is at the Professional Development Learning Center, 2802 4th Street. Leslie, do you want to say a few words about it?
I just want to thank you, Michelle, because with the first No Kings, which I just signed up for and did, and you guys, Sean reached out to me, and you came along, and couldn't have done it without you the first time, but the second time, for sure, you just were amazing. Thank you so much. Thank you, John.
Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
See you guys at the next protest.
Okay. All right, so we concluded our first round of endorsements last month for the 2026 election cycle, and now we're going to continue our candidate series this fall as we look ahead to the key races in June's primaries. Governor is obviously the big one. We've had some gubernatorial candidates already, and some more are coming after the new year. We just confirmed Katie Porter for January 28th and Javier Becerra for February 25th. So we're planning to have all the big names come through so that we can have an informed vote. But there's a few other highly competitive statewide races we're looking at, and we've got candidates from those races here tonight too. First up, though, we have a few races to consider at the LA County level. And just to be clear, because there were some questions about this, that for these two races, our county supervisor and county assessor, we are going to take endorsement votes tonight. The other three races will not be voting on tonight. So we're pleased to have two of our county level electeds here, our county supervisor Lindsey Horvath and our county assessor Jeffrey Prang, both of whom are longtime friends of this club. And I'll just make a note that we have an invitation out to Sheriff Luna to join us, and hopefully he'll come soon too. So first up, let's welcome our county supervisor, Lindsey Horvath.
Hi, good evening, everyone. Good evening. Thank you for that warm welcome.
There she is, okay.
Can you hear me?
Nice. I don't hear her.
Uh-oh.
Hold on. Is that you? Okay, hold on, Lindsey. It's on our end.
Okay.
We can hear in Zoom.
Okay, good.
Yep, you're good, Lindsey. So sorry for that, but
No worries. Thank you for the warm welcome and the great buildup and all of that. I'm really excited to see you and to be with you tonight. And Winston is trying to get into my space to say hello to. I'm incredibly grateful for the work that you do. Congratulations and best wishes to Dolly. And thanks to our fabulous organizers of the No Kings rallies. I know the most recent was an incredible success, as they all have been, thanks to your great organizing and leadership. Good evening, Democrats. It is my privilege to be here with you tonight to thank you for your support and all of the work that we've been able to do during our first term as your Los Angeles County Supervisor team. We have been hard at work, as you know. When we first came into office, we declared a state of emergency on homelessness. That was probably the number 1, 2, and 3 issue on people's minds at the time. And now, in addition to that emergency, we've also declared a state of emergency, unfortunately, on our federal government because of what we have been experiencing with the immigration raids, the targeting of our communities, and the absolute tragedy that is happening for our communities. And I thank you for the role that you have played to protect your neighbors. And because of our state of emergency, our investment in a rental assistance fund to keep people housed, and continuing to invest in programs like Represent LA and to make sure that there's legal protection as well as Know Your Rights campaigns. We're doing our part to protect your neighbors, our neighbors, all of our community members at a time such as this. We also have endured incredible pain during this year in 2025 through the wildfire devastation. As you know, in my district, I encompass the entire footprint of the Palisades fire. And I know Santa Monica was uniquely impacted in how you had to evacuate. So as we think about what our priorities are going forward, emergency preparedness and investment in disaster preparedness and response is an incredibly important component of what we want to be doing in the county. We're taking to heart the lessons of our after action report in terms of communication and investment in our Office of Emergency Management. But we also are working with our community members to make sure that everyone is prepared. And we're doing another emergency preparedness training this weekend, but we'll continue to invest in this education effort. And of course, investing in our climate resilient future is not only an important component of how we're going to rebuild, but how we have to think about our entire region. My district is noted by FEMA as the most disaster prone of any district in the of any county in the entire country. So we take this issue very seriously and know that because we are uniquely impacted by climate challenge, we also have to take seriously our call to climate action. When I was chair of the board, we adopted our county's first ever water plan, and we are investing in coastal resiliency with pilot projects like the living shoreline and coastline that exists in Santa Monica and expanding that throughout the county. But we're taking all of our lessons learned and our good progressive partnerships with community members like you to adopt policies that can benefit our entire region. I'm happy to talk more about the work that I've done and what our partnership has allowed us to do. But I'm excited to run and continue the work that we have done, the progress that we have made, and continue to make the change that we need to see to address our 21st century realities for our region. I know by working together, we'll be able to make that change possible. And I'm incredibly grateful for your consideration of supporting my reelection effort. Thank you.
Thanks, Lindsey. So one question we wanted to start with is the issue on Ocean Avenue, the mental health facility that has obviously caused a lot of concern in the community. And I think yesterday you officially issued a statement that that project is stopped and we'll find a new location for it. But as you know, there's been a lot of confusion in the community about how this happened and why there was, in your statement, you said there was a lack of transparency and communication. Can you kind of walk us through what happened there and why, the whole situation, what happened?
Sure. I think, the biggest issue that we have found is that in projects like this, it's called a BHBH project. It's funding from the state that comes to the county. The county then, the county Department of Mental Health specifically, that department then has hired a contractor to issue an RFP to consider applications and then award contracts based on those applications. And I think how that process goes leads there to be a lack of the kind of accountability that I would like to see when we have these projects coming into communities. I think the sense of ownership that needs to happen, not only when a project exists in a community, but how it comes into a community, which is why I mentioned in my statement, when you surprise people, it erodes trust. And I think in this circumstance, had we approached it differently, maybe it could have been a successful project. But given how it was introduced to the community and the lack of, I think, complete coordination that I would have liked to have seen happen leading up to establishing a program like the one that's presented here. There are many questions, and now we're fighting an uphill battle that didn't need to be. And I know that we will make this a successful project in another location. I believe we have the right components in terms of the service provider and the kinds of issues that we're trying to solve. We know that we need more of these beds throughout our communities, not just in Santa Monica, but we need them everywhere. And we know that especially in SPA 5, there's a high need for these beds. So the urgency is great. And so by no means am I saying that we shouldn't have this project, quite the contrary, but how we have the conversation matters. And I think it's important for Santa Monicans and all residents, but especially in this case, for all Santa Monicans to know, I want to work with you to make these projects a success, not only as we look to launch them, but also as they continue to operate. And so if you're having issues with any site that's ongoing, we also want to know that too, because these projects are to support our shared residents, our shared community members, and we all should be feeling the benefit. We know we're seeing a crisis on our streets of homelessness. a mental health crisis, much need for substance use treatment, and so much more. And if we don't create the beds to offer that treatment, we're not going to make progress. So by working together, I know we can do a good job, and I expect that that's what will be the outcome now that we've taken the time to have a better conversation with the community.
Okay, thanks, Lindsey. Appreciate you clarifying that. Another big issue I think that we're interested to hear about is everything that's been going on with the implementation of Measure G. Obviously, you were a big face on that when it was passed last year, and we've been excited about a lot of the good government reforms coming. There was the revelation about the existing CEO, outgoing CEO, getting this payout, and issues about the Charter Commission, I guess, and just what's going on with Measure G implementation. Are there any setbacks, and how's everything going with when will we start seeing some of the new pieces come in?
So Measure G is the implementation is underway. We this year, for the first time ever, because of Measure G, had public hearings on the budget with each of our department directors. Never in the county's history has that happened. And when we have more than $50 billion in a budget, I think transparency is incredibly important on how your dollars are being spent to shore up the social safety net for our region. We also have created and launched the Governance Reform Task Force, which is charged with giving direction on implementing Measure G and all of its directives. And so those meetings are happening. They are publicly noticed meetings. There was one tonight. And you can participate in those conversations to see the progress that they're making in terms of each aspect of implementation of Measure G and how it will roll out. Obviously, Measure G has built in some deadlines for implementation. By the end of next year, the Independent Ethics Commission will need to be completed. The elected CEO will be on the ballot in 2028. So, of course, the commission will have to give directives around how that position will be structured within the county framework going forward. And then the future redistricting effort that begins in 2030 will also, I think Winston's distracted by the television. That process will also kick off the expansion of the seats on the Board of Supervisors, with the first time all 9 seats are on the ballot in 2032. So that work is underway. We also know that other topics are coming up. And one of the topics that has come up, of course, is the clerical error that was made with the drafting of Measure G and its implications for Measure J. Before I was a supervisor, fiercely advocated for Measure J. I continue to advocate for Measure J. When we learned of this news, both I and my co-author of Measure G, Supervisor Hahn, brought forward a motion on directing County Council and relevant departments to take action to preserve Measure J. So far, we have passed an ordinance that further codifies Measure J as it was written and passed by the voters. We are also exploring legislative and other remedies to make sure that it remains codified and practiced and not only in name, but in practice. In fact, it was Measure G that revealed that Measure J wasn't properly codified, and for me is yet one of many examples why Measure G was so needed. The idea that a ballot measure could be passed by the people and not properly recorded with the Secretary of State and not properly recorded into the county charter is problematic. And I continue to believe that on issues like this, with 5 people in charge, it can feel like no one's in charge on managing these details. And so I think it's very important that we continue to implement the changes that have been directed by the will of the voters in both J and G. And I will continue to make sure that the Care First mission of the county that has been declared for a number of years remains our mission going forward.
Got it. Thank you so much. Okay. Is it what? Oh, Danny?
I move that we endorse Supervisor Horvath for re-election.
Okay. Sorry. Danny Ivanoff has moved endorsement, seconded by Sean Kaloji. Any discussion on this? Okay, then we can go to the votes. All in favor
Wait, wait, wait,
Raise
wait,
your
wait,
hand.
wait.
There was no
20
discussion.
here.
You didn't ask
How
for
many
discussion
are
on
online?
Zoom.
I'm seeing 11. Any physical hands I can be counting?
You didn't
12.
ask for a discussion on Zoom.
One. Barry's got her hand up. That's okay.
Yeah, and the question
we got
wasn't asked.
14 plus
Hello?
34 yeses. Let's all lower our hands.
Hello?
Question was not asked about
Any
plastic.
no's?
Why aren't
No.
we getting to ask questions in Zoom?
We're out here on Zoom and no one asked
People who
for
have their hands up,
discussion.
it's always-
Hello?
Any,
Can you hear us?
anybody who wants to vote no, just how about unmute and say no?
I don't believe that he can hear you. I think that, John, can you hear me?
I can hear you, but they can't hear us.
Okay, well, just a second.
Hey, John, we're
Well,
on Zoom and we're,
Excuse me, I was going to talk to him about that.
go
You
ahead.
need to keep shouting out. There are a bunch of people here who said that because nobody asked for a discussion, they feel left out of the vote. And they'd like to have some discussion about the endorsement. You're the chair. You need to make a ruling on that. And also,
Okay, well, we did just conduct the vote.
No.
I guess if someone wants to make a point at this, I guess it would be a point of order right now, and then we can take it from there. Does anybody want to do that?
The shows I saw on TV, and now I don't have to work. I got it shipped in no time.
Nikki, can you make a point of order?
I'm trying to make a point of order. Can you hear me? Can you hear me?
okay, that's Nikki Kohlhoff.
Can you hear me?
Yeah.
I'm freezing.
Now you can?
Sleeves and the collar stay stiff all day.
Put it in chat. They don't hear us.
No, he does hear you, and
I can't hear you now, John.
Yeah, we can hear John.
Should I talk?
yeah,
Can I talk?
Nikki, why don't you make your point of order?
Point of order, we would
Yep.
like to be able to comment from Zoom.
Go ahead.
Okay. There are not very many people in this meeting. It is a year before the election. Just because nobody has pulled papers doesn't mean that she's necessarily running unopposed. I think it's irresponsible for the Dem Club to make an endorsement this early on a job this critical and directly impacting us. She just had a major
Faux pas.
faux pas that is not appreciated, helped our council not be forthcoming with us. We have yet to see how she's going to resolve that and yet to see what she's going to do in the next year. I don't understand why we would give a free pass to Ms. Horvath for the Dem Club endorsement of Santa Monica when so much is at stake. And I hope people will consider voting no or abstaining just to give us the chance to see who else runs and pick the very best candidate for the city of Santa Monica. There's no need to do this tonight. Thank you.
Thank you, Nikki.
John, can I add my comments to that, what Nikki just said?
There's someone with her hand up, a person named Jean.
Let's hear from Jean, and then we'll go from there.
And then who is the man who's speaking?
In the meeting, or excuse me, in the notes about the meeting, it said an issue was plastic turf versus real grass.
Coming up.
Somebody told me that Ms. Horvath, Lindsey, sorry, I can't pronounce the last name, was against the real grass versus plastic grass. So I'd like to hear her comment about that.
Okay. Lindsey,
Can we stick with the supervisor for a moment?
Could we find out who's speaking, please? I'm not seeing you.
My name is Jean Laurie.
I'm sorry, Jean. I meant the person who keeps interrupting. I was trying to figure out who that was. But I think your question is a reasonable question. And I don't know whether Ms. Horvath is going to stay for our discussion of plastic grass or whether she'd like to answer it now.
I would
John?
like to know her position.
Lindsey, would you like to weigh in on that at all?
The county hasn't taken up an issue on plastic grass. So if you could explain to me what you're asking me to express to you a position on, I'd be happy to, but I'm not sure what the issue is that you're asking me to weigh in on.
In Santa Monica, the plastic grass people, artificial turf people seem to have made a big push without any chance for resistance. But all the most of the residents want to keep real grass on the playgrounds and parks and so forth versus the artificial turf. So I'm asking what your position is on keeping real grass in the parks and playgrounds, school playgrounds versus
I'm sorry, the
artificial
city
turf.
is proposing to remove all
No.
grass and replace it with artificial turf?
I can't say all, but they're taking the position of
The city is
installing artificial grass as opposed to real grass in school playgrounds and parks.
I know you want me to answer this question, and I would, if it's okay with you, I'd actually like to understand what the city is actually considering before I offer you an answer. So I would like to be able to look at that proposal so I can give you an informed answer, and I'm happy to do that, within 24 hours. But I don't know that I have enough information before me to express to you what my opinion is or how I would like to see the city guided to make an informed decision.
Can you answer the question, are you knowledgeable of artificial turf versus real grass and what it does to children and so forth?
I have an understanding in different applications. For example, as you saw, I have a dog at home. I have a rooftop at my building where artificial turf is used for there to be, and I know the city of West Hollywood has used artificial turf for their dog parks, which has been a benefit. So there are applications where it makes sense. If it's being looked at as a solution in all cases citywide, I think I would have a different opinion.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, let's go to John, iPhone John.
Okay, thank you very much. I just want to back up Nikki's comment that, supervisors have a budget. They control a budget larger than many states in the nation. And it's really too early to be deciding who we grant this privilege to, because it is a super privilege to handle that. So I just want to back it up. I just say we need to look and see if ready. Okay, that's all.
Okay, so here's the response to the point of order. The Democratic Club followed the bylaws to determine the correct process here, and in this case, because Supervisor Horvath is not running in in our estimation, based on our political calculation, that this is not going to be a competitive Democratic primary. She has an opponent, but they don't appear to be a Democrat, and our club can only endorse Democrats. And so, because Lindsey is a Democrat running for re-election, we made sure that when she came here, she spoke to the big issues that you raised and other issues that we wanted to make sure she had a chance to speak to. And then we had a vote of the membership. This was announced in advance when the vote was going to take place, as our bylaws require, with the correct amount of notice in our email blast. And the people who wanted to participate in that vote came here, and the people who wanted to not participate in that vote didn't come here. So out of a courtesy to the point of order, I'm happy to take the vote again, but we are going to complete the endorsement tonight.
Okay, John.
So that being said, I'm going to open it back up. The motion has already been made and seconded, but we are going to count the vote. So now that we've heard the counter arguments, okay? So
well, then I have more
questions. If you're a member of the club and you'd like to vote yes on the motion to endorse Supervisor Horvath re-election, raise your hand now.
You're really pushing this through with no discussion of the merits.
John, this is yeah, it's a kangaroo court.
John,
this is an undemocratic Dem club.
Well, I'm going to ask if Lindsey's office and one of her staff persons is here today. Zara, can you hear me?
Out to 30 votes in the affirmative. Let's all lower our hands.
John, this is What is there, like
How are you
12
even
people
counting
there?
it?
This
John,
is so
John,
undemocratic.
John,
Lower your hands. You don't want to be
Where
caught
where is our email?
counting
excuse
for a
me,
no if you don't want
John,
to be a no.
John, can
Okay.
you hear me again?
Now,
I would like to ask, John,
lower hand. Okay. Everyone who would like to vote no, please vote no now.
How?
I want to vote no. Wait, can you
I wanna
hear
vote-
me? How many of us
I
are
wanna
out
vote
there
raise your
saying
hand
no?
if you want to vote no, raise your hand.
Person.
Phone,
Okay,
John.
thank you.
Are you
Lindsey,
saying
and
that
now-
Zoom,
Oh, I'm sorry, Nikki as well. So it's 2.
And John, wait,
No.
And then
another vote for no.
Abstain.
John, are you saying that Zoom
Okay.
people
Oh,
cannot
we have 1
vote?
abstention.
Okay, Lindsay,
Oh, okay. We have 2 abstentions. Okay. All right. Well, thank you. So the endorsement carries, and
John Katz,
thank you. Congratulations,
John.
Supervisor.
John, can you hear me?
Katz, excuse me, I would like to ask Lindsay's office and one of her staff people, Zara, is here today, if they will accept a call from Hannah Leschner tomorrow. Hannah does a really good job of explaining what the issues are, and she knows where everything stands in Santa Monica. Hannah, do you mind my asking that they take a call from you?
Sure. I can be in touch with Zara, and we can just give you more context on the turf stuff so you can look at it when you have time, to like fully dig into all the information.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Appreciate
Hannah.
it.
Thank you.
And if
Lindsay.
you're not able to stay on for the expert later, I believe, John, it will be available, right? So we could share the link later as well.
Yeah, we'll send over through Zara, Supervisor Horvath, the link of this meeting, which will also include that conversation.
Yeah.
and
I mean,
did share-
there's a lot of context. So yeah.
Okay, I would actually love the context to understand what it is that's being decided. People are texting me that it's actually the school district and not the city. I saw a comment that that it's not plastic. It's some West Hollywood did use K9 synthetic grass. I know because I was on the council when that happened. But I'm happy to listen to any information the community wants to share. So thank you very much for affording me that opportunity.
Yeah, great. Thank you.
That Zoom viewers cannot vote.
Okay, thank you,
What
Supervisor
is-
Horvath.
Hey,
Appreciate
John.
you being with us.
John,
How
And,
many people
now
are in the
we'll
meeting?
now go to our next guest.
How many
Please
people
welcome
are
County
the
Assessor
meeting?
Jeffrey Prang.
How many voted yes?
Nikki-
How many no? How many
Nikki, you're out of
abstentions?
order.
He didn't announce the vote. How do?
Thank you very much,
with
Mr.
not
President.
announcing
Good
the
evening,
ballot?
everyone, in person and online. I'm here to add a little bit of excitement to this meeting in a way that can only be delivered by the county property tax assessor. Just a couple notes for those who I don't know. I've been in my 3rd term as assessor. I was first elected in 2014. Prior to that, I served for nearly 18 years as a city council member in West Hollywood, including 4 terms as mayor. I was actually served with Supervisor Horvath from 2009 until 2011. So let me tell you a little bit about my job and what I've been doing for the last 11 years. I always like to begin my comments by telling people what it is that I don't do. Because the one thing I don't do is the one thing everybody thinks I do. I don't collect taxes. The person who collects property taxes in LA County has a very intuitive title. She is called the tax collector. So the assessor is one of 3 county-wide elected officials. I'm the least known of the 3. The other 2 are the sheriff and the district attorney. I am responsible for establishing the taxable value for all property in LA County, including real property, as well as business property, which is furniture, fixtures, equipment, and machinery. Although I'm also responsible for assessing aircraft, both general aviation aircraft as well as commercial aircraft, such as LAX. We assess mobile homes, boats, and for some odd reason, racehorses. My primary job is the production of what's called the annual assessment roll, which is really just the inventory of all taxable property in the county. There's about 2.5 million taxable parcels in LA County that this year were valued at $2.2 trillion and generates almost $25 billion in property taxes, which is allocated to schools, city government, county government, and other special districts. And property taxes pay for schools, roads, libraries, parks, public health, et cetera. In a lot of ways, the assessor is the most important local government agency Because the truth is, no other government agency can do their job until I've done mine. And if I don't do my job well and thoroughly, then money is left on the table that should be going into vital public services. I'm going to tell you just briefly about one of the things I've worked on as assessor, and I'm going to give you an example of the value that I believe that we've brought to LA County, just to kind of elucidate some of the work that I've been engaged in. One of the things I guess I should say, I'm also serving this year as president of the California Assessors Association, so all my colleagues in all 58 counties thought I was thought highly enough of me to give me this this job. It's not a bad job. I'm hoping that they'll impeach me because it's a lot of work. But when I was first elected, I inherited this ancient 1970s era legacy mainframe, green screen, DOS-based computer technology system. Our 2.5 million property files were still each associated with a paper file housed in these big cavernous storage places all over the county. If you were to call about your property to my office, you might call downtown. My office staff would have to access one of a half a dozen different mainframe or green screen systems that are not very robust. They might have to refer you to one of the many district offices we have throughout the county, and then somebody would have to get out of their chair and walk to these rooms and get your paper file, sometimes just to answer basic questions. Over the last 10 years, I have invested over $130 million upgrading our technology. We've digitized all of our documents, and in August of 24, we went live on a new digitized cloud-based technology system, which has created enormous efficiencies not only for my employees, but it's really improved public service and accessibility of data for people who need to deal with my office and the property tax administrative system. And I want to share with you how it really became extraordinarily valuable over the last year. So we went live with the new system in August of last year. About the same time, every December, one of the duties of my office is to begin to do forecasting to determine where we think property values will go as the Board of Supervisors prepares their budget in anticipation of property tax revenues. So we give an estimate of what we think property taxes will grow starting on a monthly basis for 6 months starting in December. And we anticipated last December that property values in the county would grow 4%. In the positive, a little bit slower than the last couple of years, but still in the right direction. Well, then we had the fires in Eaton Canyon and the Palisades. And as you can imagine, thousands of properties were damaged or destroyed. And one of my duties is to lower the assessed value for those properties when they're impacted by a natural disaster. And we had to recalculate our forecast to account for these destroyed properties. And we lowered the assumption from 4% to 3.25%. And that 0.75% difference meant $200 million in property taxes that would have been lost to schools and city and county government. But because we had invested this money in our new technology platform, back in the spring, we were able to develop tools to help us to process these assessments with lightning speed, faster than even we anticipated. We were able to lower the values on 18,000 properties within 90 days, which meant that fire victims got their property tax refunds by May. In the old days, we would still be working on those assessments today. It would have required 100 appraisers, about 12 months in order to do that work. As a result of finishing within 90 days, we saved 45,000 personnel hours that I was able to then reprogram into doing additional assessment role production work and taking a bite out of part of our historic structural backlog of work. And in the end, the final property value growth number was 3.91%, almost the full 4% that we had anticipated, which meant that $200 million in lost revenues was really only $20 million. I think this was an incredible metric. My staff did an amazing job in order to ensure that money that people needed, the local government needed to provide programs and services in LA County at a particularly difficult budget year would be met. These are the types of efficiencies that I've tried to bring to this office over the last 11 years. I would love to have a long time to tell you about the many accomplishments that we've achieved during my tenure in office, but I don't think there's any better example to to demonstrate the type of work that I've been doing and that my office has been doing since I've been elected assessor. The assessor is one of those jobs in LA County which is not subject to term limits, so I will be running for my 4th term. I believe that I still have a lot to offer to the county. There's a lot of work that I can do. I'm still excited about the job. I still look forward to coming in every day. And I'm particularly proud of the fact that we have probably raised the profile of this office higher than it's ever been in the history of LA County. I'll never forget a Democratic Club member down in Westchester said to me a couple of years ago, she said, "Jeff, you know, I've been in politics my whole life, and I was vaguely aware that we had an assessor and that it was elected." She says, "But I didn't know anything about it, didn't even know who the assessor was." But she said, "Since you've been in the job, I feel like I know everything that office is about and what you've been doing." I was very proud of that statement because we worked hard to really increase our awareness to get to the public where they are so we can help them navigate what is otherwise a very complicated property tax administrative system. But I appreciate the opportunity to be here, and thank you for your consideration. And Mr. President, I'm happy to answer questions if that's appropriate. Thank you.
All right. So does anybody have any questions for the assessor? We have a couple, yeah. Let's field them.
You know, I thought about that, but I thought I could either do that or stay home and jab a fork in the back of my hand. And you see a little bit of blood here, but yes, sir.
Heather, Jay, recent member. I know you've made great advancements with the digitization of the tax assessing system. Sounds like it's been a really great success. What is the next big project that you would hope to tackle?
So I have a couple things. I run a relatively behind-the-scenes administrative office, so some of the things that get me excited may not make you excited. But there are a couple things I'm doing. One, I need to hire about 50 real estate appraisers and train every year, and that's very, very difficult. It impacts our production. It takes a couple of years to train these people, so I'm trying to find ways to get people onboarded into these positions more efficiently. So one of the things I've just stood up in the last 2 years that I really want to expand is a partnership with community colleges. We have a program at West LA College, Rio Hondo, and Mount San Antonio. I'm trying to create a community college to jobs pipeline where we can actually really offer some great job opportunities to young people. If you get a job in the county, that could be really transformational for a lot of people. It will also help me solve a lot of problems, bringing in qualified people that I can train and hold on, retain for a longer period of time. The other thing I'm working on is something called assessment appeals. If you get a property tax bill, you think it's too high, what you're really saying is you think that my people got it wrong in terms of the value. It is an archaic system. There's 2 departments that each have a role in it. It's very inefficient. It sometimes takes long periods of time to get these cases resolved. It costs the county millions of dollars in interest payments and efficiencies. I want to make that system work better so people can get a fair review of their assessment within a short period of time, so it doesn't cost the county a lot of money and you can get your money back when you have a dispute. And then the last major initiative that I'm working on is something we call it the low value ordinance. And this says if you're a business that pays business personal property tax, you have to pay taxes on your furniture, your equipment, and machinery. Right now, if you own $5,000 equipment or more, you have to pay taxes on that. It's taxed the same rate as real estate, 1%. So $5,000 of equipment is, we make 50 bucks. But between my office, the auditor controller, and the tax collector, we pay over $100 to collect that $50. So I am trying to, I want the Board of Supervisors to raise that threshold to the maximum, which is $10,000. I believe I can give property tax relief to over 50,000 small businesses throughout the county. We're not going to lose any money over it. It'll make it easier for the small businesses to not have to worry about all this paperwork, and it will allow me to reallocate my resources to higher value assessments, which we could actually make some money on. And thank you.
Oh.
Thank you, Sean. Hi, just circling back to the Palisades fire, the tragedy that that affected our area too. I'm curious, I don't understand how this all works, but okay, so for a person who lost all their home, but they still own the land, what kind of tax relief do these people receive?
So there's the program that we operate is something called Misfortune and Calamity, which says that if your home is damaged or destroyed by a natural disaster, we need to lower the value to reflect that damage. So if your home was completely destroyed, we're going to zero out the value of that home and other improvements. The land, unfortunately, is still taxed. And in Pacific Palisades and Altadena, 68% of the value of all property is in the land, not in the buildings. So when we did lower the assessment and the taxes, they still got a bill for the land. Although I did something no other assessor's ever done, I actually lowered the value of the land as well. We made a determination that it was damaged due to the toxins in the soil, and so we gave them about a 20 to 30% discount on the land value. What happens next is as they rebuild, if you rebuild your home, it could be a brand new home, but your pre-fire tax base will be restored, so you won't be penalized as though it's a new construction. That's the basic core function of how the fire relief works with property assessment. Right? Thank you all very much. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Assessor. And is there, Councilmember Hall?
Hi, John.
Nate, we need to unmute on Zoom. If someone on the Zoom is talking, we need to be able to hear it in here. Sorry about that, and I know there was an issue earlier too. Sorry about that. Councilmember, go ahead.
That's can you hear me?
Yep.
Thank you, John, and thank you, Assessor Prang. This is Councilmember Dan Hall. I'd like to move Jeff Prang for an endorsement for.
Second.
Okay, so I heard the second from Anastasia first. It came through. Sorry. Don't worry, there'll be more opportunities. Okay, so we have a motion from Councilmember Hall, seconded by Trustee Foster. All those in favor? Okay, you're right. Let's see if there's discussion first. We'll put the hands down. Is there discussion with anybody on Zoom because of the hand thing? If anyone wants to, if there's a discussion, let's hear it. Open it up. No discussion? Okay. Now let's raise the hands. All in favor? Okay, we have 22 in person, and on Zoom we have 12 more. So that comes out to 34 if my math is right. Let's lower the hands. And okay, all opposed? Any abstentions here? Okay. Oh, one abstention. Okay, 34-0 with one abstention. All right, thank you so much, Assessor Prang. Okay, so now we have two more 2026 endorsements done, and now we'll hear from three more candidates who are running statewide, each for three different races. And these endorsements we'll do sometime in the winter once we've heard from all the other candidates. But first up is the Superintendent of Public Instruction, a position currently held by Tony Thurman. He's termed out and running for governor. And we're pleased to be joined for the first time by LA Community College Board Member Nichelle Henderson.
Thank you. Good evening, Democrats. I am Nichelle Henderson. I am a career teacher, educator running to be the next superintendent of public instruction. In my part-time elected work, I am a trustee on the Los Angeles Community College District. But in my day job, I am a teacher educator. I work in a teacher credentialing program where I work with new and pre-service teachers working towards their multiple subjects teaching credentials. In order to do this work, I myself have to hold a current, clear multiple subjects teaching credential. So I am a teacher. I've been in education for about 30 years, although I know I look two. I started my career in education as a parent volunteer when my oldest son was in a preschool reading readiness program, and it required parent participation. And I found myself volunteering quite a bit because many of the other parents worked. So I had a toddler and an infant, so I was home most of the time. And I found that although I had really never really thought about being a teacher because teachers really don't make a lot of money, I realized how much I loved it. So as I was working as a teacher's aide, I changed my major from electrical engineering at Cal State LA and switched my major to liberal studies so that I could get out and get a job. And I graduated from Cal State LA with a bachelor's degree in liberal studies. Upon graduation, I jumped into a credentialing program where I got my teaching credential, and I was hired with the Compton Unified School District to be a 6th grade teacher. So I taught 6th grade math and science, and then I had an opportunity to teach pre-algebra, algebra, and math intervention for 2 years in 7th and 8th grade. And what I learned and what I promised myself the first day in the classroom was that if I didn't like it, I wouldn't go back. Thank God for the kids. It was like the first day of school. I went back the next day. But what I found is that I'm a learner. I love learning, but I love teaching even more. And so although I've been out of the classroom now for 15 years, in my day job, I've spent the last 12 teaching teachers. Why do I tell you that part of my background? Because the superintendent of public instruction is a state constitutional officer. And state constitutional officers should have some lived experience in the position. So the same as you would want your attorney general to have a background in law, you'd want your insurance commissioner to know something about insurance. You would want your superintendent of public instruction to have some background in education. I believe very firmly that every child, every student deserves to have a school that's fully funded. Their classroom have reduced class sizes, but most importantly that their teachers are supported and that they're able to earn a thriving wage. Excuse me. In the state of California, school districts, based off of their budget, can pay their teachers what they choose. There's no flat base teacher salary across the state. That base salary is based off of district. So there is a huge disparity in teacher pay across this district, which is the reason that teachers most often are not able to live in the communities of the schools that they teach, but also they're not able to be homeowners. And when we have teachers that are homeless, that are living in their vehicles, that are literally living paycheck to paycheck, that have to work summers, have to take odd jobs, a number of teachers work 2 jobs, that is a travesty. Teachers build every other profession, but we are not respected. And I say we because I'm a teacher. As a superintendent of public instruction, it would be my duty and incumbent upon me to make sure that on the boards and commissions that I sit on across the state and federally, that I lend my voice in those conversations when we talk about teacher pay, when we talk about the ill effects of standardized testing, when we talk about reducing class size, through a lens of really understanding and seeing firsthand what smaller class sizes mean to students and teachers, what pay equity looks like in our classroom. As a community college trustee, I've been very active in making sure that we have workforce pathways for students, because not every student is inclined to go to college immediately after high school. What teacher says that, right? The idea is we understand when we talk about meeting people where they are, is literally meeting people where they are. When we say that all students deserve a good education, being intentional about what that looks like and what that is. Because I know that not all students are able to or interested in going to college right out of high school. Workforce opportunities and pre-apprenticeship opportunities, internships, while they're in high school is very important, because that is a pathway to economic success. And most often, when someone is able to be employed, earn a thriving wage, they're more likely to consider a college education at some point in the future. I'm running for the seat because I believe wholeheartedly in the power of education. But I also understand that this system is not designed to work for every child in every circumstance. So we have achievement gaps. How do we improve student learning? During the pandemic, there was a lot of talk about learning loss. I don't agree with that term. I think it's ridiculous because if you learned it, you can't lose it. That's why people tell you that when you get an education, it's your pathway to the future. Because when you've learned something, your education, no one can take it away from you, meaning you can't forget it. So there is no such thing as learning loss. You either learned it or you didn't. You might forget it, but you didn't lose it. And so the point is, when we consider how we are educating our students, and I'll give an example, standardized testing is the bane of my existence. Why? Because it does not give an accurate depiction of students' ability to demonstrate their learning. We have a system of social promotion in our public school system, where students matriculate annually from grade to grade, grade to grade, not functioning at grade level. So we have students that we know cannot read, but we're allowing them to get to high school and graduate knowing that they can't read. Standardized tests are assessments. Assessments are designed to determine your mastery of some skill, your mastery of some content. Why are we assessing students and making the testing so high stakes when we're clearly not using the assessment data to determine whether or not students move on to the next grade? And so we're constantly wondering why we don't have supplemental programs for students to help close the gap. We need to allow teachers to teach so that we close the gap. And so my passion for education, my advocacy for education is 30 years plus in the making. I'm not a career politician. I'm almost 60. I said, I know I look like I started my career at 2. But I have adult children. I have grandchildren. Just welcomed the new granddaughter yesterday. I don't plan to do this forever. I'm looking to get in, make some substantive change in education, and move on for the next person to really implement some really great things. So I would love to have your support. I welcome conversation around all issues around education. Right now in my campaign, we have embarked upon a 58-county tour across the state, where I'm visiting school sites in rural areas and bustling cities, talking to teachers, talking to students. I've been endorsed by 2 young Democrat political activist organizations, Gen Up and Next Gen. And the people 16 to 26 are really fueling my campaign. And one of the questions that I've been asked by high school students is if I would support them being able to vote for their school board members. So they don't want to vote for everybody. They want to vote for this particular role where the person in this role would most significantly impact their education. I support it. Because I understand that when we're telling people that we believe that they are our future, we give them voice, we give them agency to be to see themselves as part of that future. So those are just a few of the things that I look forward to doing and making sure happens as a superintendent of public instruction, but I'm happy to answer any questions.
Yeah. So let's start with what's happening at the national level. We're seeing the Department of Education not only decimated, but potentially eliminated. How is this affecting California students right now? And then what can you do when you come into the office to kind of make up for what's being lost there? Yeah, one of I guess the primary consideration with that is as this crazy person in the White House is seeking to dismantle public education, we have to think about what that means. He's firing employees that do the work, right? He's putting on, as far as higher ed, he's putting
student loans, FAFSA, under HUD. So you have somebody that doesn't understand housing now handling student financial aid. Absolutely ridiculous. His thought process is to erase or eliminate that federal arm that manages the money going into the states. We have local control. So what that will ultimately do is put a lot more power in the hands of our state Department of Education. Also, will probably require that our superintendent have a little more authority and power. The challenge that a lot of the schools are having is that they have earmarks, federal earmarks or community grant project funding from our legislators and our federal representatives that is often one-time money, but they manage to get it several years, or it's grant funding that is good for a few years. And they're treating it as ongoing money in their budgets when they should treat it as one-time money. And so some of our school districts have become dependent on what many of us refer to as soft money. And now they're worried that they won't have it. But their base, I guess, general funding, if you call it, is intact. The other challenge is that this president is doing is creating racial and social divides. All of the work around social justice and equity, that funding is being jeopardized because this president doesn't want to see it. So the school districts that have implemented programming that now the funding might be cut are wondering how they're going to do this work without the money. But the beautiful thing is the people that have been doing this work were doing this work before dollars were attached, and they will continue to do this work. The idea is, how do we maintain a level of efficiency in our schools if some of this essential funding is cut, not the specialized funding? So as a superintendent, one of the primary things that I would be doing is just working towards having equitable funding across the state, because we fund our schools based off of size and the property tax value. So if schools in an affluent area have a little more because families are able to donate, have booster clubs, do fundraising, where in a less affluent area, the parents are barely making it. There are a lot of multi-family dwellings where you're not getting a large influx of tax dollars. So if the funding is equitable across the board, the base funding, any other additional is cherry on top of the sundae, but the primary programming can function. So that's what I would work towards, making sure that we have fully funded schools, but being intentional about what that looks like in a rural area as well as in a city.
Okay, got it. We have a bunch of SMC college trustees on the call now. One of them submitted this question. His son is 3, at the same age as my son, and they're both going to go into TK together next year. We are expanding the universal TK program through Prop 98. How do we ensure that that expansion doesn't come at the expense of the community colleges?
That's a very good question. That's a very good question, because when we think about that Prop 98 money, the community colleges portion of it is what gets cut first. Because there is specific funding for TK programs, I don't see it really, that particular program being problematic to community colleges, because there was specific funding designated for expansion of TK.
Okay, got it.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on. What's your view on the influence of charter schools and in California's education system, and how do we balance the innovations that they may bring with the public oversight that obviously our public school system can provide?
Thank you for that question. So when Tony Thurmond was first elected in 2018, there was a huge anti-charter push, right? It was a labor versus charter, because in many of the charter schools, their teachers weren't able to unionize. Since that time, that has changed. Since that time, charter schools are now requiring that their teachers be credentialed, and because they're credentialed and now they can unionize. So the issue around charter schools is a little different in terms of the focus. In LA, we see a large number of charter schools that are co-locating on our traditional public school campuses. And essentially what they're doing is they are functioning very much like a parasite. So you have your local traditional public school, and on that campus, even sharing buildings, is the charter school. And the charter school is supposed to pay their fair share, but oftentimes what they pay and what they use don't really match up. So making sure that they pay their fair share is most important, but really cutting back on the co-location. Because I mean, I may be wrong. I don't think the issue of having a charter school in our area is as important as the fact that it's co-locating. Because when we have so I've never been a proponent of charter schools. I believe that on a state level, we should fund our public schools, our traditional public schools, as best we can, because it eliminates the need for a charter, right? But there are areas across our state where the only access a lot of students have is a charter school because of the distance that they have to travel to get to their local public school. So as a superintendent, I can't say we should do away with charters. What I will say is that we should fight for funding so that we have programming that our local public schools can meet the needs of all of our students. Because we have areas where the closest public school to many students is an hour drive one way. And so they have a charter school in the area that's closer and meets the needs. The other thing is we have to get out of this us versus them ideology. We can learn from each other because there are some things that the charter schools are doing well, some of them, that we can incorporate in our local public schools. And then there are some things in our local public schools that we could probably do away with. So communication is going to be really key, but as the superintendent, making sure that that responsibility and accountability piece, that is set by legislation, is, I think it's Assembly Bill, Senate Bill 84, that really makes it a priority to hold charters accountable, because we're not just holding them accountable for the fact that they can accept state and federal dollars and raise money on their own through their own personal foundations. Is making sure that when they say that they're offering a better programming than our local traditional public school, that they really are, that they're doing the work that they're saying that they're doing for our students.
Well, speaking of the students, one question that I'm hearing from them is how can we better support their mental health, like in the post-pandemic era, the transition that a lot of kids are going through in this time. How do we support their mental health? How do we support their safety needs?
The way we support their mental health best is to understand what trauma looks like. We have families that lost their homes, completely lost their homes in these recent fires. So there are children that lost their toys. There are children that are now not living in the place that they've known as home for whatever period of time that is. That is traumatic. And to move away from the idea of children that addressing their mental needs means that they have some severe mental illness. Losing a friend, your parents being unemployed, being homeless, being hungry, all of these issues impact a student's mental health. So the idea is to understand that through the lens of a child and provide folks for our children to talk to and give them opportunities to talk about the things that are distressing them, as well as helping their parents out. Because young children, they know that they're dealing with something, but it's difficult for them to articulate what they need in terms of support. So it's up to us as adults to make sure that we have those services available. That means that there are a number of apps that children can log on to, because most kids have phones. There are websites, there are people, there are telehealth vans, there are counselors, there are parents that can come and just be a respite for children. It's really thinking about what it means to be intentional about dealing with trauma. And because what may impact the child today emotionally and mentally after talking to someone and addressing it is not necessarily what they're dealing with the next week. And so understanding that time and circumstance is important, but having resources available, and that comes with the allocation of funds and being intentional. Even our teachers are in need of mental health services. Understanding what it looks like for in each situation.
Totally. Okay. So my last question is, how do we close the opportunity gaps for students of color, English learners, disability students, and get everybody achieving equally?
We stop social promotion. We take the high stakes out of assessments, out of our standardized tests. We reduce class sizes. We pay our teachers more. We involve the community and local businesses and our local public schools. And we bring community into our schools. We make sure that we support our teachers, volunteer in a classroom. And I think I didn't fully answer the question around safety. We're dealing with ICE raids in a lot of our communities, and a lot of students are not attending school because they're afraid to be at school, afraid that ICE may come onto their campus and kidnap them or one of their classmates, but they're also afraid to leave home to go to school because they're afraid they're going to get home to an empty house and a parent has been taken into custody. It's having plans. So ICE cannot come onto any private space. So at a school site, if your school is gated or there's a barrier between the outside and coming into the school, say there's a buzzer that gets you into the campus. When they are allowed onto a campus, there are spaces that they can and cannot go. Any space that is deemed private, they cannot go. With or without permission, they just cannot go. Public spaces, schoolyard, parking lot, they can go. So a school having a plan, a school district having a plan of designating private space and really thinking about how we get our kids to and from school. If students and parents are afraid to walk to school because they may be abducted, maybe create a morning or afternoon walking tree or parent pickups where a parent can drop their child off or watch their child walk to a neighbor's house that may take their child to school. Because once they're in school, they're in a private space. It's being intentional about what plans look like for protection, protecting our LGBT students, making sure that they feel safe to express themselves however they do that. If they're transgender, they're not worried about being out. I don't know about you, I've got 4 children. My youngest just turned 31 a few days ago. If one of my children was identified as transgender or LGBT, I think I would probably know before them. So the idea of outing children is absurd, and it's also very much cruel. So when we're thinking about safety, thinking about every aspect of children's emotional and social and physical well-being.
Okay, well, thank you so much.
Thank you.
It's really great to meet you. And
thank you all.
thank you. Okay, well, thanks so much. And next up, we have a candidate running for lieutenant governor, where Lenny Kounalakis is again termed limited and running for treasurer. So please welcome live via satellite from Sausalito, California, where she was previously the mayor and now serves on council, Janelle Kellman.
Thank you, John. Hi, Democrats. Thank you for having me tonight. I know it's quite a busy meeting, so I'm excited to be with you all, and I'm sorry I can't be there in person. But as John mentioned, I am Janelle Kellman, and I am running for Lieutenant Governor of California. I am so excited about having the opportunity to be on the front lines during probably the most insane time of our lives when it comes to democracy. But I'm running for Lieutenant Governor because despite the very good and strong efforts by some very smart people, overall, Sacramento has fallen into the trap of reacting to crises instead of taking urgent action before things get out of control. And I'm sorry to say, I think you all know this very much firsthand, but we haven't made real progress and we're running out of time. on things like wildfire prevention, housing, and droughts and water scarcity. And so for me, when I look at where we are as a state, where we are as a nation, I can't help but feel it is time to take action. That is who I am as an individual. That is my orientation towards life, is getting things done. And so this campaign is about taking action, addressing the high cost of living, economic prosperity and helping small businesses, and public safety from climate risk to homelessness. So in my time with you tonight, I'll share a little about who I am, why I'm different, a little bit about the role, and what I want to do as the lieutenant governor. It's quite fascinating for me. I'm not a career politician. I actually never set out to be in politics, but somehow the role of lieutenant governor is one that I have been training for my entire career. I am an environmental and land use attorney. I'm a small business owner. As John mentioned, I'm the former mayor of Sausalito. And I really like details. I actually served for 10 years on the Sausalito Planning Commission, and I'm currently on the Disaster Preparedness Committee. Still, even while I'm on the campaign trail, I wanted to continue to contribute to my community. I also run a global climate nonprofit focused on climate risk. I work extensively around the US, France, Portugal, Italy, and Spain, dealing with climate risks from sea level rise and flooding to wildfires and landslides. And in that role, I've gotten to know the insurance industry and catastrophic risk modeling fairly well. And so I'm often invited, as I was today, to speak as a climate risk expert. I grew up on the East Coast. I have an undergrad from Yale. I have a master's in environmental management from Oxford, and I have a law degree from Stanford. But I think the thing that has shaped me most in my career is I'm a lifelong team sport athlete. I played lacrosse and field hockey in college. And if anybody is or knows a goalkeeper, I was a goalkeeper in field hockey, you know, we can't win the game. We can only ever lose the game. And so you develop a very, very deep appreciation for members of a team and enjoying that team dynamic and staying very calm under pressure, seeing the field, and executing the plan. And that's my leadership style. It was my leadership style as a team captain in college, as a mayor of my town, as a nonprofit leader, and it's what I'll bring to the state of California. I got on early for this chat because I really wanted to hear from the other candidates. I like to do my research, and a theme that I heard, both from your assessor and from the last candidate, is lived experience and how important that is. So I'm just going to throw out there that I think I'm the only candidate in the race with a very broad portfolio of lived experience that ties directly to this job. I am a community leader who has taken action. I'm a small business owner. I'm a climate risk expert. And I have actually solved problems faced by everyday Californians, which means that I am grounded in real world experiences, not in talking points. And I like to give examples, so I'll give you three. The first is homelessness. When I was the mayor here in Sausalito, we had one of 3 homeless encampments in the county. We only have a $22 million general fund. We do not have an HHS, but we had, at its height, 45 people in our homeless encampment. And I helped negotiate the safe and humanitarian closing of that encampment and making sure people got housing. And that was much of an uphill battle based on the current financing structure from the state through the county. Another example is I know how to bring dollars from FEMA and Cal OES to get funds into a community. We had a massive landslide here in Sausalito in 2019. If you just Google Sausalito 2019 landslide, you'll see an entire hillside came down under Highway 101. We had to seek FEMA reimbursement. We, of course, got sued by folks impacted by this terrible tragedy. I had to work diligently to get that money back from FEMA. Similarly, I went to our state assembly member and I made the case to get $1 million to handle a shoreline adaptation and vulnerability assessment because we've been flooding for years and nobody was doing anything about it. And this was after leading our sea level rise task force. I worked closely and brought this check for $1 million. And my counsel said, "How'd you get this?" And I said, "Well, I did the work and I harangued our assembly member and I explained why we needed it. And it turns out hard work pays off." And because of both the landslide and the homeless encampment and all the litigation, we got dropped from our insurance pool. So welcome to navigating the private insurance market, which I did. I helped our city manager and our city attorney develop a new risk profile for our city and worked with the private insurance marketplace to identify the right coverage. I mentioned these on the ground local examples because I have a bias, and my bias is that real change starts close to home. As I've been traveling up and down the state, I was in Eureka 2 weeks ago. I was in Modesto, Mariposa, Irvine, and LA last week. Everywhere I go, I meet local communities leaders like yourselves who are doing incredible things. And not because they're trying to get on the cover of a magazine, but because this is who you are. And this is who we are as a state. And so I want this role of lieutenant governor to be one that bridges that gap between policy and implementation. I was the president of the League of California Cities North Bay Division. I had 36 cities, 4 counties as part of leadership. And everywhere I went up and down the state, I found that local leaders wanted to take action, but that we had a disconnect. And I want to be able to bridge that. So it's really, really important to me. And it's important to all of us because we are seeing that even in communities like this one, where we've worked hard and created stability, disaster can strike. And we feel those ripple effects. And that is not a left or a right issue. That's about functioning government. And in many, many places, the system is broken. We're trying. We really are. There's really good people at the helm trying, but there's lots to do to fix it. And this lieutenant governor role, which has often been seen as ceremonial, is actually really, really important. So just real briefly, 3 main roles by statute. Only a statewide office that serves on the governing body of all 3 levels of public higher education. I would be a UC regent, and I would serve on the board of trustees of the CSUs and the board of governors of the community college system. That is a line of sight for our mental health, for our economic health. When 1 out of every 16 jobs comes from our community colleges. The second bucket is this is actually a climate and ocean role. I would serve on the Ocean Protection Council, which is all the science behind the policy. I would serve on the California Coastal Commission, which you all well know is the permitting entity. And I would serve on the 3-person State Lands Commission, managing over 5 million acres of surplus lands. Most of our ports and our coastlines are managed and held in trust under the public trust doctrine for the people of California and governed by the State Lands Commission. This is really important for both our climate and our economic resilience. As an example, if you look at the ports of Long Beach and LA, collectively handle 40% of all containerized shipping in the United States. That's $900 billion worth of imports and exports. If you look at our budget right now from 2025-26, 35% of our budget is coming from the federal government. That's $175 billion. We are at a time when we have to be self-reliant, and we have the tools to do this. Public higher education, our ports, and the last role, which is the lieutenant governor, chairs the State Commission on Economic Development. So it's actually a really cool role. I can't believe we haven't talked about it. Most people don't even know we have it. When the assessor candidate mentioned it, I had to chuckle. This is the other role people don't know. But I think it's a job for a builder. I think it's a job for somebody who wants to take action. And that's me. I see the problem set. I bring the experts to the table. I build broad coalitions. And I drive teamwork to execute on a solution. So I'll just get sort of to the end of my little talk here, which is what I want to do in the first year as your lieutenant governor. I like to keep it simple. 3 main things. Number 1, I want to fund year-round wildfire prevention. I want to make sure that we are executing on home hardening, defensible space, and doing it in a way that is equitable across communities. Number 2, I want to focus on building more housing in the places where we need it most, but with an eye to public safety at the same time. And we have an opportunity through about 75,000 acres of surplus lands currently owned by the Department of Education. UCLA and UC Berkeley estimate we could put around 2.3 to 2.6 million units of affordable housing on state-owned lands. And the last piece, and actually the last candidate alluded to this, job-aligned curriculum. I am extremely committed to workforce development. I think we have a huge opportunity to make sure that anybody coming out of one of our schools can find a job. This means a variety of things, right? This means funding workforce development programs. It means leaning in on and expanding apprenticeship and vocational programs, because not everybody is interested in a 2 or 4 year school. And it's also making sure we bring business back to California in a way that fits our values so that there are places for people to get jobs. I'll just end by saying I've lived in California since 1997. I have literally never heard anybody talk about the job. So I am aiming to change that. And I can also very genuinely tell you, I want this job. I'm not bouncing around to another job. It's not a stepping stone for me. If this were the private sector, I actually think I would be hired based on my experience through my nonprofit and climate and environmental work. So thank you all so much. I really appreciate you having me. I look forward to meeting you in person.
Well, I have to say that you just sort of went through all of my questions one by one. I had done the same research about what the lieutenant governor's role is, and you hit all the bullet points. So did anyone have anything that we missed, that she missed before we move on? Yeah, Mitchell. And do we want to get him a mic, Sean? And Mike, you have one too? Okay, so we're going to do Mitchell's question and Mike's question, then that'll be it for here.
Okay, great.
Mitchell, go ahead.
I like what you say, your generalities. But specifically, I see agricultural, there are two issues that I want to bring up. One is I see Aggie lands being taken over by, what you call tract housing. And I know we need housing, but I think when you see urban sprawl being taken over by agricultural lands in the Salinas Valley, I think you have to look at what maybe you know Gary Patton. If the Aggie lands are making a profit, keep them. You need a state law for that. There is none, other than Santa Cruz County has one. And I think you'll look into that. The other thing is the Malibu Coast Highway, particularly the beach side. The houses are down. You're down to land. And I'd like you to look at getting that for the state, where one way or another, but one way is to have a state bond for those people that want to sell. There's a lot of people that want to sell their land, and let's get it, because we do not have down here, or I should say up here in Southern California, we don't have enough recreational beach land. It's concentrated. Okay. You see everybody going up traffic going up the Coast Highway on weekend looking for a beach.
Let's get to the question, okay?
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, so let me hit the farmland piece first. So California loses about 50 to 60,000 acres of farmland each year to development. And I can tell you as an environmental lawyer and climate expert, agricultural lands are actually carbon sinks. They're water recharge areas, and they're economic engines for rural communities. I think farmland protection is climate infrastructure, much like workforce development is climate infrastructure. And we can't afford to pave over our food security. And so when I look at this, I think about urban sprawl. It's not just a land use issue, it's a climate, water, and economic one. So as Lieutenant Governor, I would push the state to align housing and infrastructure growth with our climate goals. I'd love to see more infill or transit-oriented development and adaptive reuse of underutilized spaces, and really think hard about the diversity of interests that we have across our state. Inherent in that, we don't have the time for it, water is one of the biggest issues in our state, and we don't talk about it nearly enough. Those things go hand in hand, obviously. John, was there another?
She didn't answer about the Malibu or the Aggie lands being taken over.
I thought she answered it. We can have her follow up with you, okay? I'll connect you guys.
Oh, on the Malibu and acquiring more land?
Sure.
I appreciate that. We want more recreational access. California, you think of it no matter where you are in the world, you think about our beaches and our surfing. We have to be really realistic, right? It's very expensive. It's subject to hazard zones. There's going to be private ownership pressures. But there are places where we could see preserving that really iconic and historic route. We may have eminent domain rules and have to pay fair market value, but I saw, I can't remember the year, but I thought that the State Coastal Conservancy had tried to acquire a vacant lot in Malibu to improve public access. And we may in fact see more of that from private sector and from NGOs, even maybe Nature Conservancy and Trust for Public Land.
Thank you. Let's go to Mike.
Hi, I really appreciate your saying that state public land needs to be used to create housing, and you mentioned the word affordable housing, and my question to you is affordable to whom? We have 1.5 million households in the state of California where people are both low income and paying more than 50% of their income for rent. We have another 1.5 million low income people who are paying at least more than 30%, up to 50%. So are you talking about creating affordable housing for those folks? And if so, how are we going to fund it?
Yeah, that's a great question. So in California, affordable housing has a very specific legal meaning. So under state and federal law, it generally means housing that costs no more than 30% of a household's gross income. And when you look at our RENA numbers, you have 4 or 5 different groupings. It's extremely low income, very low income, moderate income, et cetera. So I think in LA County, the research I did was something around $100K for low income housing. So you're right to ask that question, because we throw affordable housing out a lot of times. I'm going to throw out a different way to look at the issue, which is I think we just need more housing. I think the market will begin to figure out how to distribute that housing. But if we're intentional about it, especially if we seek to intentionally create workforce or teacher housing on or near community college campuses, or by using Department of Education surplus lands, I think we can start to provide for members of our community who meet that median income that you're alluding to, who are in dire need of housing in our state.
Okay. Thanks so much. Thank you, Councilmember Kellman, for being here. Appreciate it, and great to meet you.
Thank you, everybody.
Okay, and next up, our final candidate of the evening is someone who needs no introduction to this club, as he used to sit on its board. After serving in the state senate for 12 years, he's now running for California State Insurance Commissioner. Let's welcome Senator Ben Allen. This I got for you.
Thank you, sir. Well, so good to see everybody. I'm glad to see the roof all fixed up, which is so exciting, given all the challenges they've had here at the church. So good to see everybody. I know it's been a long night, and we're going to go into more topics to come on, reducing turf and a lot of other issues. But I just wanted to come in and brief. I know you wanted me to give a kind of a brief legislative update, and then just talk a little bit about some of the politics and then the race. Obviously, we finished up our latest session just a couple of months ago, and passed the balanced budget. Though our budget is in very difficult shape right now, I worked very intensely on the passage of our cap and trade reauthorization, which continues California's global leadership on the fight against climate change. Also was the lead author of the big Prop 4 climate bond that we were able to pass together back in November, which includes significant outlays of investment for our water infrastructure, for our wildfire resiliency, et cetera. So there's been, the subcommittee that I oversee has been kind of leading those expenditures, and also all the cap and trade monies that we've been pushing out as well. A lot of my work coming out of the fires have been focused on trying to improve our insurance system. It's, obviously all of our folks up there have been struggling so much, both on the very front end when they're just trying to get payouts from their insurance companies for policies that they've been paying for years. Some of the insurance companies have behaved very honorably, others much less so. We put forward a bill to increase the percentage of the contents coverage that the insurance industry would be required to pay out without requiring an itemized list of every item that people have lost. This is one of the many indignities associated with losing your home in a big fire. You think that when you've lost everything, you get 100% of the contents coverage that you've been paying for the items in your house, because you've lost literally everything. And yet, They force people to go through this, to draw up an itemized list, including all the pricing. So at the very same time when you're trying to relocate your family and your school and your business and your whole life, you also have to go through your iPhone and remember what items were in the living room and the dining room and get that list together so you can just get reimbursed for this product that you've been paying for. So our bill increased the percentage of our original bill. It actually asked for 100% of all of the contents coverage to be covered. Unfortunately, it was knocked down to 60% by the Assembly Insurance Committee, which speaks to some extent to the power of the insurance industry up there, but it's still a major step in the right direction. We've also worked on legislation to give people more tax relief and more flexibility in the wake of the disasters. And then more writ large, a lot of work has been focusing on how we harden. What are some of the lessons learned from this crisis? How do we help rebuild our state and fire zones in a way that takes into account all of the top fire science? I just got to go visit a neighborhood down in Escondido not too long ago, where they've built a whole community in the very high fire risk zone, which, by the way, I don't think we should be doing anything to incentivize, but if you're going to do it, we should be using cutting-edge fire resilience science, which involves both the building materials you use, the type of screens that prevent embers from getting into the eaves of the house, redoing the flammable roofs, but certain kinds of vegetation management that will reduce the chances of the neighborhood getting caught on fire. This particular neighborhood has really strict CC&Rs, and they are draconian about how they enforce them. They'll literally go in there, if you're not complying with the CC&Rs, they'll go in and force you to comply and then charge you for it. The one thing that I'll say is that this neighborhood is paying thousands of dollars less in insurance than neighborhoods just next door, because the insurers know that this neighborhood is doing everything it can to make sure that its fire risk is less. Writ large, there's a lot of debate about who should be holding the bag. Unfortunately, ratepayers keep getting stuck with the ever-increasing costs of all of the risk that we have. You've seen folks have to, the state is once again, to some extent, bailing out the FAIR Plan, which is a really low-grade insurer of last resort. When we talk about housing, one of the many things I think we need to do is I don't think we should be allowing any new developments in the very high fire risk zones that cannot be insured by the regular insurance market. If the insurance market doesn't believe that your development is safe enough for them to insure, you shouldn't be building that project. At the end of the day, putting it onto the FAIR Plan is simply foisting the cost on all the rest of us, and a developer walking away having profited from the project and ultimately leaving us all with the risk. And it's not just the insurance risk, it's also the utilities risk, it's also the fire risk. We're having to spend more and more of our resources. The CAL FIRE has become the Department of Defense of the state budget. They're taking over more and more of the budget for a lot of good reasons. I mean, and I'm not opposing these allocations, but my goodness, now $1 billion out of the Greenhouse Gas Reduction Fund is now going to CAL FIRE. Now, there's justification for it because the massive fires have a huge climate impact, a huge greenhouse gas emissions impact. But the flip side is we can't, it's another cost driver that's impinging upon other areas of the budget that we've got to start getting more control over. I hope that the problem is so large, the stakes are getting so high, that there's space here for us to have bigger conversations and to force more real action to reduce our wildfire risk. And then also ask questions about, who should be left holding the bag. I mean, should the fossil fuels industry be chipping in a bit? I don't know. I mean, there's a bill that Senator Wiener proposed that allowed, the FAIR Plan and the insurers to sue them for some of their risk liability associated with climate-related disasters. I don't know, interesting idea, but lots of the stakes are getting so high because the utilities are starting to battle with the insurers over who should be, left holding the bag, et cetera. So there's some opportunity here. But it's a very difficult area of policy. Quite frankly, I come into this conversation with a great deal of trepidation. But as I reflect on the things that I'm most proud of in my time in the legislature, landing the massive extended producer responsibility bill on plastics waste reduction, the TV film tax credit, the big bond that I was just referring to earlier. I just got a bill through that is the most, according to one of the major advocates on this topic, the most important pro-consumer car purchasing protection bill, transparency bill in the country in the last 10 years. Difficult legislation that involves incorporating perspectives from lots of different conflicting stakeholders and trying to come up with solutions that are going to make life a little bit better in California. And I think that's the spirit that I would want to take toward trying to address these broad challenges of trying to make our insurance system more accessible, more affordable, more robust, more real for people. And I think the only way we do that ultimately is through massive, really serious approach to risk reduction, and while also holding insurers accountable and putting consumers first. And it's a very difficult balance to strike, but it's one that I'm excited about spending a lot of time working on. Obviously, continue to be very engaged in environmental policy. We've done work on PFAS. We've done work on plastics reduction. I continue to be really concerned about plastic proliferation in our environment. We're going to be having a discussion about turf, and quite frankly, it's my perspective that we should be doing more to reduce the amount of plastic waste out in our environment, including in the space of turf, especially at the elementary schools. But I think, writ large, there's a lot there's too much of, I think turf is part of the proliferation of plastic waste that we see, that we need to be really circumspect about when it comes to, folks that want to continue to expand the amount of turf in our community. And then finally, I just want to talk briefly about Prop 50, which I know you guys have come out to support. Everyone knows the importance of this, but I just want to reiterate to people, this is something that a lot of us were not excited about putting on the ballot initially, right? This is something that we all had to come to because a lot of us support the independent redistricting commissions, and we believe in the promise of the independent redistricting commissions. And I, in fact, have pursued legislation to create a standardized system for independent redistricting commissions for the county boards of supervisors around the state, and many of those efforts to turn these boards over to independent commissions have been routinely opposed by Republicans. But now they've suddenly seen the light with regards to the independent redistricting commissions, because of the circumstances. Let us just remind our friends who have reticence over this a couple of key things. First of all, this only comes as a direct reaction to the President of the United States in scarily familiar terms from when that famous phone call he made to the governor of Georgia, go find me a few thousand extra votes. This time he calls the governor of Texas and tells him, I'm entitled to 5 more seats in the House. He knows his numbers are down. He knows that that the Republicans in the House have totally derelicted their duty and their responsibility, even their own basic self-respect and sovereignty and respect for their own institutions, sovereign powers under the Constitution, and that the only thing standing in his way is the possibility of a Democratic-controlled House that could at least provide some check, even if you don't embrace the Democratic Party agenda. If you're not a hardcore MAGA guy, you have to see what a very problematic guy, if not totally dangerous president this is. And the only way to put a check on his unabashed power is to restore some balance of power to Washington, which would involve a Democratic House majority. When you look at things like the fire, we are owed over $40 billion from the federal government in relief aid. Now, we never asked for partisan conditions to be applied to relief aid going to North Carolina or Louisiana or Texas or Florida after terrible hurricanes, and yet that is being applied to us for purely partisan reasons. And, again, it's another reason why I think we have to increase our leverage so as to just be reimbursed. I hate the fact that we're in this situation where I'm even having to say this out loud, because it's like our country's turning into a banana republic. But that's the reality we're in. So first of all, it is a direct reaction, directly triggered by the state of Texas trying to increase its number of seats, and by the way, putting in place a gerrymander on top of a gerrymander, because that was already a partisan gerrymander, but they're trying to utilize the latest data from the 2024 election, all sorts of newfangled AI tools associated with gerrymandering and tech, so as to be able to manipulate the maps further to increase their majority. And now you see a couple other Republican states responding in kind, North Carolina and elsewhere. So first of all, it has been triggered by the actions of the president and the governor of Texas. And unlike in Texas, where they quickly saluted and got to drawing a new map and passed it into law within just a couple of weeks, we are actually going to the voters. We are all going to collectively decide together. This wasn't just something imposed upon the voters by the legislature and the governor. It's something that we're going to either do or not together as a state. We're going to be voting on this in just a week or two. The other thing I'll say is that it is temporary. It is temporary. This only is in effect through the next census, and then the system will revert back to the Independent Redistricting Commission. Now somebody goes, oh, they're just going to try to keep doing it. Even if there was an attempt to do it, that would have to be a whole other vote of the general public. So there's no way that the legislature and the governor doesn't have the legal mechanism to continue, because the reversion back to the old system is written right into the measure. So again, it is a direct response triggered by this act of the governor and the president in Texas, and it's a temporary fix. And I will say, this is not as aggressive a gerrymander as we could have done, because we were so respectful of the Voting Rights Act, which the Supreme Court doesn't seem quite as respectful of, we fear. And we actually left some of the districts in the Central Valley and down south are more purple than they could have been, so as to be respectful of voter minority issues associated with the Voting Rights Act. For example, the big Central Valley Valadeo district could have been extended west to the coast, which would have diluted the Latino population in the district, but it would have made it more democratic. And that was not done out of respect for the Voting Rights Act. So this is not even as aggressive a gerrymander as it could be. So I came from, it was with a somewhat heavy heart that I approached this issue, because I believe so strongly in independent redistricting commissions, but I have become thoroughly convinced of the wisdom and the value and the importance of getting this passed. And I guess one of the final things I'll say on this is that usually we're all working together here in Santa Monica to turn out people in Arizona and Nevada. We're lucky when we're having to go down to Orange County to work on a purple House district, or North County. This election isn't about going elsewhere. It's about us turning out our friends, neighbors, and families in places just like Santa Monica. Because if we can drive, this is a low turnout election. The data is already showing that. Thankfully, the turnout amongst Republicans even lower than amongst Democrats. There just isn't a lot of enthusiasm, and it's a bit of a wonky issue. What's interesting about this is that we do better in the polls amongst high propensity voters than amongst the general public. In both cases, we're above 50%, but we have a stronger majority amongst those people that vote regularly, because it's people who are paying close attention. It takes a little while to get into the mechanics of gerrymandering and redistricting and the dynamics with Washington and how it interplays with the independent redistricting commissions. It's people like the folks in this room that want to talk about this kind of thing. So as a result, though, it's an incredible opportunity for us, simply by turning out our friends, families, and neighbors, to have a real impact on what is undoubtedly the most important election in the country in the year of 2025. I love and respect the judicial candidates in Michigan and the New Jersey legislature, and even the mayor of New York. Good for them. But this really, if you care about the future trajectory of the United States of America, this is by far the most consequential election in the country in this calendar year. And this is not about going off to Orange County. It's about turning out our fellow Democrats right here in neighborhoods that are bluer, like Santa Monica. So please take advantage of the many walks and canvasses that we're going to be engaged in over the course of the weekend. Please make sure you go vote yourself. There's a vote center right here at the Civic Center. You can also vote in many of those convenient drop boxes or vote by mail. The earlier you vote, the more likely your vote will be counted in the first tranche of ballots that are released on election night, the results that are released on election night. So if you want to be part of, every vote will count. And one of the reasons why we have such slow vote counts in the state of California is because we're very, very anxious to make sure every vote is counted, and every voter who wants to show up at a vote center, even if they're not registered yet can register as long as they're eligible, and then their vote will be counted provisionally. But then we also have really strict anti-fraud and voter protection controls, which just means that it delays the process. It's part of why we have such a slow count. We're trying to speed that up, and we're doing some work on that right now. But we're very anxious to make sure everyone participates. And I just want to thank the club for its continual leadership in this area. I think the club is seen regionally as a really important fighter for our party and for our values. And so it's with that I can continue to be just so honored to get to represent this wonderful community where I grew up and we're now raising our kids. So just want to say that and thank you so much for your continued advocacy and leadership for our party.
Thanks, Ben. And so we'll see you at Reed Park on Saturday morning.
Yes,
Yeah,
I'll be
we'll
there.
Okay.
9 o'clock, Reed Park.
10.
10. Oh, 10. Okay, Saturday morning.
Ben was there at the one we did a couple weeks ago. So,
Yeah.
you never know when he's going to pop up.
When there were PDI problems, but we.
Yeah, well, no, we don't.
All right,
No.
okay.
It always works. The canvases always work flawlessly. I wanted to pivot back to the election, though, the insurance commissioner race.
Yep.
So what concrete tools does the office have to go after insurance companies that are taking advantage of their customers, charging them too much or fees and things like that? How would you use those to benefit consumers?
The commissioner is the lead regulator of the industry. Right. So it's ultimately up to the commissioner has a good deal of tools to hold them accountable, especially if they're violating their contractual obligations or if they're violating the law. You do see a lot of stonewalling. I mean, the commissioner right now has been going after the FAIR Plan for egregiously violating the law, at least from my perspective, on smoke damage claims. And yet they're fighting back and they're all going to court. So to some extent, there's a bully pulpit aspect, there's a pressure, there's a cajoling, there's a pushing that the commissioner does. But sometimes they have to go to court. And you can't be afraid to go to court to stand up for consumers' rights. And I'm going to certainly, I'm coming out of this experience in the fires, pretty interested in making sure this office is a robust, pro-consumer office.
Great. So I wanted to ask you, there's been a lot of reported corruption in the department now under Ricardo Lara's tenure. Setting the policy aside of the insurance commissioner, what are the managerial and ethics lessons that you take away from the news that's come out of the department? How would you manage the department differently to make sure that we don't see those kinds of ethics issues continue?
Yeah, I mean, ethics, transparency, political reform have always been very, very close to my political philosophy, my way of doing business. I've been, the California Clean Money Campaign, for example, has ranked me #1 in the legislature for my entire 11 years for my commitment to these kinds of ethics and transparency issues. So I think some of this comes down to the ethical standards that the leader takes, and those are values that are really a strong ethical core is I think essential to leadership position like this. And I would take that same commitment and philosophy to my management over at the department.
Okay, great. We'll have time for one question. We'll go in the back. And Sean's got the mic. Yeah. Here you go.
What is the plan for when other states pull a Texas?
What's the plan? Okay, what I will say to that is, remember that most of the states are already using gerrymandered maps. We're one of the few that don't. It is really hard to do an additional aggressive gerrymander in most states because most states are so much smaller than ours and Texas. You can only do what Texas and California are doing because we're so big. We've got so much, the smaller the state, the less the seats, the less district lines to draw, and the less you can manipulate. And so, look, you are seeing North Carolina try to do this for the Republicans, Virginia's trying to do this for the Democrats, so there's a little bit of a mutually assured destruction that's happening here, but it can't go as far as you may fear, because of the fact that A, we're already building off of gerrymandered maps. There's already a limitation of what you can do. And in addition, the smaller the state, the less you can manipulate the lines. So to some extent, the big problem here is really with the big states. And so it was when Texas made the move that it made that we felt the need. I think if it were smaller states doing this, I don't think we would have been doing this. But it was Texas, its size, its sophistication, and the aggressiveness of the map. By the way, they may have overshot themselves, and we have no idea where the electorate's going to be next year. But there is a possibility that they've gotten so greedy. The thing about gerrymandering is that you can try to create more seats for your guys, but that means that by definition you're lowering your percentage majority in most districts. And the smaller the majority, the more at risk you are if there's a substantial wave in the other direction. And that, I think it's our hope that they may have overshot themselves a little bit in Texas. Now, of course, who knows? And we're not taking chances. But it's a good question. Look, I hate the fact that we're in this situation. I really do. And I also struggle with I don't think this is a two wrongs don't make a right situation. I don't believe that at all, given, we can't fight with one hand tied behind our backs, given all that's happening at the national level. But this was a heavy decision that we made. But I to my core, I feel it was the right one. And I think that the voters, at least from the data I'm seeing so far, are with us on this because they recognize what extraordinary circumstances we're in right now.
Okay, great. Thanks a lot. Okay, the club raised a lot of money at the picnic in August, and one of the rainy day projects we've been waiting on for a bit too long, frankly, is the upgrading of our website. And we've been working with our website developer, Finlay Nathan, to design a whole makeover for the site. We're going to take a look at the site now, and if everything looks good, we're going to ask everyone to approve the upgrade cost, which I'll say now that the total is going to be $2,500. So hopefully everyone's pleased with the site. Finn's been a part of this community his whole life. If you don't know Finn, his mom is Jennifer Kennedy, former planning commissioner and city council candidate, and been in the SMER leadership. We've been together in many a canvas over the years. And Finn built our website up for us about 6 years ago when he was in high school. And now he's graduated college and going into the workforce, and we've got him for one last job. So we're really excited about it. Let's please welcome Finn Nathan. Hey, man. So how are you doing the tech here?
I think the easiest way would be if I could get on the Zoom and just screen share.
Yeah, sure. You have are you on the Zoom?
I'm not, no.
Okay. I'll email you. Oh, and then I'll have to make you the co-host and everything. Okay, folks, just one moment. Did you get the email? Okay, here he comes into the Zoom. You should mute probably on your end. Okay, you're good to screen share now. Okay, as we were. And then you should use this microphone. So people
Do you mind if I move this over a little bit? All right, hi everyone. My name is Finley. Like John said, 6 years ago, I worked on refreshing the Santa Monica Democratic Club website, which looked like this. And today I am proud to present the next generation of the home of all the information and updates of the Santa Monica Democratic Club, which looks like this. Prominently featured, I'm sure most of you, since you're here, are already subscribed to the mailing list, but prominently featured is the mailing list sign up. So if you're looking to invite any friends, you can easily point them in the right direction. And below that, much prettier than before, you can see the latest updates from the Democratic Club about meetings and endorsements, all easily accessible, as well as resources provided by the club and information about the club itself, all at your fingertips, including a brand new calendar, which lets you know about upcoming events, meetings, ways that you can participate in the club. So I'm hoping that you like what I've made for the club today and approve the new website. And I'd love to hear any feedback as well.
Sorry, it's hard for me to see what I looked for on your website today and when the meeting was. Can you just show that to me?
Certainly, yes. So in this new site, we have a calendar easily accessible in the top right corner. As you can see, on October 29th, this is the current club meeting right now. And this will stay up to date with all future events shown right here. Mm-hmm.
You got a ringer, I think. Okay. I don't have my glasses on, but what are the top, thank you. What are the top four menu choices on the right?
Yes, so I've simplified the menu on the homepage to see. The first option is news updates from the club about meetings, anything that is posted. You can go back all the way actually to 2011 if you're curious, once it's published. The second option tells you a little bit about the club. So the officers, bylaws, how to join the club, and how to contact its leadership. Our resources tab shows links to important resources, state elected leaders, websites, important information right at your fingertips here, including voter registration instructions. And then fourth, as we just talked about, the brand new calendar. And I see a hand up in the Zoom call. Patricia?
Yeah, hi, Finn. It's Patricia. It's nice to see you up here. I'm wondering where one of my favorite parts of our current website is finding all of the previous meetings, finding the recordings of the previous meetings. Where are they now sitting?
Sure, yes. John, you can correct me if I'm wrong here. I believe all the meeting history and recordings are part of the news page.
They'll end up in there. We can maybe make a page or something for them.
Yeah, we could also have potentially a link to just filter by meeting recordings as well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. Nice job.
Sure. Mm-hmm. All right. Thank you.
Oh, wait.
Oh, one more?
Sean?
I had one question. Where are the endorsements? Are they listed on there, easily accessible?
Yes, so right now we have the latest endorsements, is correct, as the very first pinned post. And you can read through them. It's the first thing visible on the website under the newsletter sign up. Yes. Yes, join our, join our club is right under the About header in the navigation bar. You can also pay your membership dues on any page of the site by visiting the sidebar. That's either on the right side or the bottom on mobile. And this is what that information looks like here.
Whenever.
You can pay your 2026 dues now, but your current 2025 is good through December 31st, 2025.
Okay. Did you have a question, Sean? Or you?
I would move that we authorize the website.
Okay. Oh, sorry, Susan, you got beat again by Nichelle this time. Okay. Okay. Any discussion?
Hello, John?
Thank
Can you hear me?
Yep.
John, would you be interested in my doing political cartoons for your website? I do that here in Florida.
Christine, we're in the middle of a motion right now, if it's okay.
Okay.
Okay. All in favor of approval?
Aye.
Okay. 12 online, we go. You should recuse yourself. That's. Okay, we have 19 in person and 14 or 13 online, so it comes out to 32 votes. Okay, and let's all put our hands down. And all opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, it's unanimous. Thanks, man.
Thank you.
All right, we'll talk.
Yeah, we'll talk.
Okay. All right. Okay, final item of the night. We have an issue that's new for the club, but it's been bubbling up around the community recently, and that's artificial turf. Santa Monica currently has turf on the sports fields at a couple of our parks, and when it was proposed for Franklin Elementary, there was a lot of pushback from parents and community members who use those fields that have serious environmental and health concerns about artificial turf in our community. I want to credit 3 club members who brought this issue to our attention. First, Matt Goldenberg, who raised it back in May. We waited to see how it was going to play out at Franklin and talked to the school district to gain their perspectives. Thanks, Matt, for your patience here. Then in September, we heard from Hannah Leschner and Melanie Lutheran, who made the case that we should move on this now before the city council has the chance to weigh in. So tonight, we're going to hear their presentation making the case for why we should take this position, and we're going to have our vote on it at the next meeting, November 12th. So we'll discuss it tonight. That is for the benefit of people who aren't here tonight. We'll be able to watch the recording and consider their thoughts about it. Wanted to clarify, we did invite members of the school board and school district staff if they wanted to make a case for the opposition tonight, since they've done so in their context in the district. They declined to do that here tonight. If anyone else does want to make that case tonight against banning the turf, or if you want to wait and do it on November 12th, just please let me know and contact the club. We will provide that time before we take the position. But first, we want to hear from Hannah and Melanie. Oh, and Harry, so Harry's coming too, okay, and Harry Leschner as well. You can come up.
All right, thank you for everybody who's still sticking around. I promise this will be a valuable use of your time to listen in. Obviously, voting is important, but these kind of local issues, like you have a unique opportunity here to make a significant impact. Local land use policy is a hugely important part of climate action and combating pollution. So just to set the stage before I introduce Diane, the state of play in Santa Monica currently, well, actually, for anybody who's maybe new to the club or maybe new to California or LA, like just a quick civics lesson. So there's the the Santa Monica City Council, LA is the same too, and the Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District Board We elect people on both. They actually are two separate jurisdictions, so any policy that the city council makes, actually, the school board is not beholden to, and vice versa. And so all the city parks, the city council governs, what goes in there. With the school board, in all the schools, they make their own decisions separately. However, as a Santa Monica Democratic Club, we can make endorsements of candidates. We can also take a position, and that kind of impacts how those city council and school board members make policy decisions. So the state of play right now on the city side, currently the city does not have any current plans to install any new artificial turf fields at parks. City staff is recommending a position to possibly replace existing turf fields when they're end of life with new turf fields. So that would be a net new purchase of that, big sheet of plastic to go on that field. I think some of us would hope that they don't renew that they kind of, let that go back to natural grass over the end of the useful life. But also there is a city parks plan that I think is getting published in November. And this has broader implications, like when the airport park gets created and converted, those could be net new fields that are artificial turf. So far though, they seem to be taking a position of no net fields, but this is all, there's no official policy yet to dictate what happens. The school board is a kind of completely different story. They also don't technically have a policy, but they do have plans to install new artificial turf fields at least 2 of the schools, including Franklin Elementary, which is where our children go to school. Also, the school board seems to be taking a position that is much more pro artificial turf. The Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District superintendent and their chief operating officer have spoken at industry conferences for the turf industry and kind of promoting its use, and have even offered to lobby the LA City Council as they go through and make this decision to take a pro-turf standpoint. They obviously haven't installed these fields yet, so we still have some time to put the pressure campaign on, but that's basically what we're going to discuss today. Do you have anything you want to add?
No, thank you.
Okay.
I would like to thank the Dem Club for taking up this issue. I believe that our school district and our school board want to do what's best for our children. The science around artificial turf is rapidly evolving, and we hope this opens the conversation and that our community will come together to eventually phase out artificial turf. And I will just say that I came to this issue, obviously, as a mother. I live in multifamily housing. We don't have a yard. The Franklin yard is the biggest green field to my home and to the home of many renters in the city. And if that is taken away, there's truly not a large grass, dirty playing field to play in for our children in that community.
Yeah, so, I mean, carpeting our city in giant rolls of plastic, I think, would be pretty devastating to the environment. Also, the industry tends to cast doubt on some of the medical concerns, but the California Medical Association has taken a position against the artificial turf, and they recommend that children do not play on it. And then we'll also hear from our speaker today about some of the maintenance and economic aspects, which are also kind of more favorable for natural grass. So with that, it's my great pleasure to introduce Diane Wolke. She's a member of Safe, Healthy Playing Fields. She's a retired advanced practice nurse and public health nurse. She spent nearly 3 decades in clinical practice and as a clinical professor mentoring nursing and medical students and residents. Diane has led efforts to block synthetic turf installation throughout California and the US, fought for the inclusion in climate action and zero waste plans, and was instrumental in mounting the effort for inclusion in the 2021 to 23 California Department of Toxic Substance Control Work Plan. She has written extensive statements on chemicals in tires and synthetic turf, plant-based infills and tire crumb infills, pour-in-place playground surfaces throughout the city and country. She also wrote the unanimously approved California Sierra Club position statement opposing synthetic turf in the National Sierra Club, that went in the National Sierra Club resolution. And she is a California resident where she lives with her husband and her 3 dogs. So with that, thank you so much. Diane, do we have you on?
I'm here. I'm not quite as awake and energetic as the senator was, but hopefully we'll get through this and I'll be able to hold your interest for a bit. The senator knows that I'm passionate about this topic. He's heard from me multiple times over the years, as well as his staff, and I've even been to Franklin Elementary recently where he spoke and where the North of Montana group had a display up at Franklin Elementary. I brought the natural grass samples. Okay, so let's see here. John, I need screen sharing.
I'm coming. Okay.
We're all getting tired.
Right.
Thank you to those of you on the East Coast who are sticking with us. Okay, let's try this again. Okay, so what you're looking at here is actually a playing field. There's over a million square feet, I believe, of natural grass playing fields in Scottsdale, Arizona. They use hybrid Bermuda grasses and save on water year after year. Santa Monica's use of synthetic turf conflicts with multiple policies that you have. You were an early adopter of the bag ban back in 2011. You do have a sustainability rights ordinance, which is highly significant here. You have a zero waste plan, a commitment to the Paris Climate Agreement goals, a single-use plastics ban, and a climate action plan. So what are we thinking here? This is a fossil fuel product. It's petrochemical, and one average regulation size playing field is the equivalent of 3.2 million plastic bags or 46 million plastic straws. Safe Healthy Playing Fields, of which I'm a board member, is in full support of a ban on synthetic turf playing fields, synthetic playgrounds, and synthetic landscaping. We support nature-based solutions, high-use desert and drought-tolerant Bermuda hybrid grass fields that are specifically engineered for playing fields. We support regenerative and organic management and zero emission maintenance equipment. And we also support warning signs at all of these synthetic turf fields. The general public, when they look at these, they simply see green. They don't understand the heat. They don't understand the chemicals that their children are exposed to, even adults are exposed to. Just touching this product on with your hands or knees or anything else, you can absorb PFOS, one of the 16,000 PFAS chemicals, through your skin. That has been demonstrated. Major healthcare organizations and researchers across the country are taking a stand on synthetic turf and plastics. It was already mentioned that the California Medical Association has a resolution regarding synthetic turf and transitioning away. I simply listed here some of the organizations that are most relevant to California. The Silent Spring Institute and the Lowell Center for Sustainable Production actually submitted public comments to the California Department of Toxic Substance Control regarding synthetic turf, extensive statements regarding the dangers, and Silent Spring Institute specializes in breast cancer research. A lot of these chemicals in these plastics cause not only non-communicable diseases, but cancers. And childhood cancer alone rose by 50% from 2015. Actually, it was over a 40-year period, and over a 45-year period total now, we have a rise of 35% in childhood and adolescent cancers. And all of these chemicals, or a lot of these chemicals, are present in synthetic turf. And this is not just a California issue. There is growing discontent with synthetic turf, not only across the country, but internationally as well. I was there to help then Mayor Ann Schneider in Millbrae to bring their moratorium before Senator Allen's SB 676 was passed. And once it was passed, they were ready to go with an ordinance banning synthetic turf. Unfortunately, it only applies to residential properties, and we still need the senator to go back and overturn the law that deals with HOAs. He and I both live in HOAs. I'm tired of looking at it. I'm tired of it going down our storm drains and out to our ocean. I live within a couple of miles of the ocean. Currently in California, we have 4 bans. Massachusetts actually just added a 5th moratorium the other day. There are currently numerous lawsuits regarding synthetic turf across the country, and there's an international ban in the Netherlands. And in fact, the European Union, within the last month and a half, openly called the synthetic turf industry a synthetic turf cartel. And in fact, they're investigating one of the companies out of the Netherlands who has been promoting this widely in Santa Monica and other cities. California Department of Toxic Substance Control has already determined to bring, as of last October, to bring synthetic turf under regulation because of PFAS, what's known as the forever chemical. Excuse me, they're currently reviewing other chemicals of concern, and we expect to have open public comments again soon. They're also planning on bringing microplastics under regulation. What you're looking at here on the left is the new no infill synthetic turf, and the green are the microplastic blades that are shedding off of the field. Each field loses between 2,000 and 3,000 pounds of microplastic blades alone every year. And this particular product has 16 times more blades than other products that require synthetic turf infill. This field is one that has been proposed for the airport park fields, where there's currently, I believe I measured it at over 129,000 square feet. And this field is the same product that they were discussing at a recent meeting. And this field in Pasadena was 1.5 years old when I did this video. We're talking about no small amount of microplastics, and also the carpet backing, the underlayment pad, all of it is made of plastic, and they all shed microplastics and even nanoplastics. They're going out to our ocean, they are contaminating the beach, they are compromising our food chain. These fields are entirely too hot. This field with temperature of 200.3 was taken on a field that is up in Los Gatos, California, south of the Bay Area. These fields contribute to climate change. They off-gas large amounts of methane, ethylene, and carbon dioxide. They create heat islands that are so big that they're visible from satellites in space. And plastics generally contribute 4 times the greenhouse gas emissions that the aviation industry does. These are temperatures taken on the no-infill turf on the upper left. That was taken in August when the temperature was 76 degrees, and the surface of the plastic measured over 186 degrees. The same field on the far right was taken back in March when it was 73 degrees, and the surface temperature was 163. On that particular day in March, the person who took these images was actually on the field when her phone was shutting down because of the heat. She had to leave the field because she was feeling physically ill from the heat. And even leaving the field and walking around the outside perimeter on a sidewalk, she still continued to feel ill from the heat. This is a field in Santee, California. It's the same manufacturer, the non-infill turf. You can see on the images on the left where it's melting. This field, these fields there have been in place for about 5 years. They told a big fat lie to the city of Carlsbad recently and said it had been there for a year. Not true. But you can see there that it was, I believe it was 84 degrees that day in Santee, and the surface temperature was 169.5. This is significant because a full thickness burn all the way through the skin can occur within 5 seconds at a temperature of 140 degrees. This is an image of the heat island effect over Airport Park. And again, the plastics industry, this stuff heats the atmosphere 4 times as much as the airline industry. It's a major contributor to climate change. And the runoff, of course, also acidifies our ocean, which contributes further to climate change. Also, highly significant is this product is being promulgated by the industry in the CAL FIRE meetings regarding Zone 0 as being ember and flame resistant. It categorically is not. And in fact, I pulled an article about the wildfire smoke that was in Santa Monica, actually, during the January wildfires. There is research that is ongoing. And in fact, a group at UC Davis is going to be looking at the nanoparticles released from synthetic turf to see if that is what they have been finding in the fire zones. Even if they were able to get rid of the PFAS in synthetic turf, which the industry claims it has done, it's not true. We have been testing, others have been testing, and we know the tricks that they use in order to get non-detect values on the PFAS chemicals. If one day they can get rid of the PFAS, there are so many chemicals that are highly toxic and cancer-causing, not just to people, but also to aquatic organisms and wildlife as well. Until they get rid of all the plastic, we continue to have an issue. It's not just the PFAS. The research has confirmed that these fields do confer a health risk. There was a research done recently. On the left, you can see the title of the research and the authors. They actually found that there is an age-wise cancer risk playing on these fields, an elevated risk. In June of maybe it was actually earlier, maybe it was March or April of 2023 in San Diego, a coach and his young daughter and her teammates did a pilot study with Dr. Kyla Bennett, who was one of the 2 researchers to discover PFAS in synthetic turf. And what they did was they used hand wipes on the kids. And after playing on 3 different synthetic turf fields, put them all in a baggie, sent them off for testing at a lab. And then they did the same thing after the kids played on natural grass. And while they did find PFAS or PFOS specifically on there, that's all they tested for was the PFOS. On both the synthetic and the natural grass fields, the natural grass fields could very well have been managed conventionally with synthetic pesticides, which do contain PFAS. The levels of PFOS after the kids played on the synthetic turf was significantly higher. And that study is currently in the writing phase. They have repeated that with larger numbers of kids, broader age ranges, more fields. That's being done by the Casotis Lab at Wayne State University in Detroit, Michigan. Those same researchers at Wayne State have also conducted research by, the short version is that they took both new and old field samples, they ground them up, they exposed them to human cell lines, and they did confirm that in fact they interfere with our hormone systems, they interfere with our metabolic and cardiac systems. They are toxic. We know this. There's no disputing the research any longer. So, you need to follow the peer-reviewed science. The same applies when you're looking at injuries. We know that when you look at the peer-reviewed science every year, and this is out of actually the information on students with exertional heat illness is out of a database that is available to healthcare providers. My training was at USC School of Medicine and School of Nursing. I can access this information. 9,000 students a year being treated for exertional heat illness. And again, I review the burn information here. Athletes are dying at increasing numbers from heat stroke every year. A couple of months ago, we had, I think, 5 student athletes die within a week and a half or 2-week period across the country. Let me go back. There's a higher incidence of injuries overall on synthetic turf when compared to natural grass. We have a high incidence of concussions. And in fact, new research just came out last week that shows that, unfortunately, you can only determine if somebody has chronic traumatic encephalopathy from repeated concussions after they've died and their brain is studied. But research that came out last week is showing that there are newer techniques that is finding chemical changes in younger and younger students' brains that lead to this chronic traumatic encephalopathy. And in fact, it's been found in students as young as 17 years old. And by age 30, less than 30, 41.4% of athletes show signs of CTE. Helmets have to be specific for the position played, and they have to be properly fitted, and their intended use is to prevent death, not concussion. Okay, so this stuff, even though the industry claims it's recyclable, it absolutely positively is not anywhere. Upper left, this is a more recently found site in Riverside County. The truck that you see is actually, this was the Saratoga High School field from a couple of years ago that was dumped on, part of it was dumped on agricultural land in Santa Clara County. In the one to the right of that is actually up in the high desert in San Bernardino County, has now been shut down. On the right, Field Turf claims that they recycle their fields by sending them up to Oregon, where they beat the tire crumb out of them and then ship them down to Lincoln, California. Again, completely unsubstantiated, no proof whatsoever. And the individual who took these screenshots, this is actually from a video she took for us, hundreds upon hundreds and hundreds of rolls of synthetic turf piled up there. Same down on the middle left. This is actually along the Sacramento River, if you can believe this. Below that is in Louisiana, where Tenkate is claiming to send their turf to be chopped up. We've spoken with the Department of Environmental Quality there. There is no recycling happening. Middle bottom is near me in Escondido, California. 3 high school fields dumped behind one of the high schools on a creek. You can see a roll into the creek bed there. And a quarter of a mile away and up around the corner is a water treatment plant. On the bottom right is a warehouse in New Jersey, where I was able to send 2 advocates in New Jersey to look into information we had found in public records. And in fact, they found fields from New Hampshire, an event center in New Jersey, and a high school in Connecticut, all being hidden in this warehouse in New Jersey. So why are we not putting in natural grass playing fields, or why are people complaining about natural grass playing field? Basically, it's because they are not doing their homework to pay attention to the root zone. They're not understanding the natural drainage capabilities of natural grass. They're not doing professional installations, and certainly not doing maintenance. You have to do a soil analysis as well as preferably a living biome analysis to determine what you need to do to remediate the soil. And then that determines what sod or seed is best. Seed produces a better playing field, but In fact, we now have drought and desert tolerant Bermuda hybrids that are grown in the Coachella Valley. And if they can play on them in places like Scottsdale, Arizona, and Las Vegas, Nevada, we've kind of run out of excuses here. We need to step it up. We need to be putting these properly installing and maintaining these fields. And in May of 2024, there was a webinar with, I think there were at least 6 natural grass experts from across the country who did a webinar. And this is based on the information that they provided during that webinar. It depends on what your commitment is, what a city or what a school district's commitment is. If you want a low-end field, a mid-range, or a high-end field with all the bells and whistles, even with installation and this is actually installation prices, amortized over 24 years, a high-end field, $43,333 per year. This is information that was compiled from various sources, including the Toxics Use Reduction Institute at UMass Lowell, where they actually have done case studies on multiple fields, and they're currently doing one up in Northern California as well. Playable hours is something that gets bannered about a lot. These are industry claims that have been unsubstantiated. And Bermuda grass saves an incredible amount of water. And if you use regenerative and organic management, you don't have any of the synthetic inputs from as far as synthetic fertilizers and or even pesticides, rodenticides, and herbicides. It's not a product swap. It's a whole different paradigm shift. There are people that will do training on this. There are pilot projects available. In particular, I can name Beyond Pesticides does this. They do it in conjunction with Chip Osborne Organics, who has been in this industry for 40 years, training school districts and cities how to organically manage natural grass playing fields. They don't do the installation, they don't do the maintenance, but they will go through your books, see where you're spending money that could be saved, do the training of staff, and then follow you for 2 years to make sure that you've got a good, healthy product. The industry likes to claim that they can save 1,000 gallons or 1.5 million gallons of water a year. Again, categorically untrue. They're quoting actually early research that was quoted by one individual who never did her own research on synthetic turf. And she was quoting research actually from University of New Mexico. And there's far newer research that shows there's a water savings. This again is another park in Scottsdale, Arizona. Again, 1 million square feet of high-use Bermuda grass playing fields and demonstrated water savings, lower right, year after year. Los Angeles Unified School District is bringing forward a resolution to transition away from synthetic turf. And I'm questioning why Santa Monica Malibu Unified School District cannot do the same. This was published on October 14th, and it will be coming up for presentation on November 18th. They are still looking at finessing this. We've had input to it, as has a large group from Los Angeles that I'm also involved with, the Southern California Stop Artificial Turf Task Force. And we're working also with Councilmember Bob Blumenfield's office to hopefully eventually bring a ban on synthetic turf in Los Angeles. Also, LA 28 for the Olympics. The mayor has signed on to a program called Resilient by Nature. They are a signatory, and their focus is on wildfire resilience, nature restoration, ocean protection, and cooling solutions. Why can't Santa Monica be a signatory to this? The Ocean Protection Council, the Department of Insurance, the everybody is turning to nature-based solutions. So I'm hoping we've got your attention on this. This is an incredibly deep topic. I could go on at length for hours and hours. The microplastics issue is huge. There have been microplastics found in literally every single body organ and bodily fluid that we have. We can't keep up this path. We have to turn away from plastic. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Diane, for the presentation. It was really excellent and really informative. I learned a lot. So, does anyone have any outstanding questions before we wrap up that presentation? And also want to ask again is if there's anyone who wants to make the case in support of turf or at least opposing the ban on it. Okay. And then Stephen, so our chair of the Parks and Rec Commission, or Recs and Park Commission is here. Is there anything you wanted to fill in the gaps or anything missing there? Sean, can you get him that? Yeah.
Hi, this is Stephen Johnson. I'm the chair of the Recreation and Parks Commission. We had the pleasure of Diane's presentation in our September meeting, and also she came and spoke at the earlier September meeting for the Field Sports Advisory Council Committee meeting. And we wanted to share here tonight that this, as was mentioned earlier, the city staff, Public Landscape, Public Works, has proposed, and I can confirm this, has proposed and done a great presentation on having no net new artificial turf fields in the city of Santa Monica. And the context I wanted to provide was that in the city of Santa Monica, as was mentioned earlier, what's different than the fields you see at the schools, city of Santa Monica, we have 13 baseball and softball fields. All of them are grass. They're all going to stay grass. Even with the Memorial Park extension redevelopment that we're doing, the net new fields there, that policy will mean those fields will remain grass that are at Memorial Park right now. That is the proposal. That's what's going in the planning. Earlier drafts, including the EIR on that, mentioned the possibility of artificial turf because we thought we had a requirement from Santa Monica College, who's helping to fund it. Santa Monica College has said they're cool with grass, we're cool with grass. So Memorial Park, when it expands, should have grass. That leaves just the two artificial turf fields that the city has. You might be aware of you probably see the Belmar Park, which is the new park, has a pretty high grade of artificial turf, better than average. I've played on it, it's better than average. And then Airport Park is one of the points of contention because Airport Park, the turf there has outlived its lifespan. And it's been in the CIP, the capital budget, to replace it for multiple years. The city doesn't have the budget to replace it yet. But at some point, that field will shut down if we can't find the funding to replace the turf or grass. But that's a very important and critical thing. The staff proposal is anything that's currently turf would be replaced with turf until such time that we have enough new grass fields. So I think one of the things I want to leave you with before we meet again and talk about this issue is I think it's good. The city is on board with no net new artificial turf fields, and we want grass fields even to replace what we have eventually. But until we get 6, 10, or more grass fields at the airport or anywhere we can find it, until we get enough grass fields to alleviate the impact of, we were very overscheduled on our fields, both at the school fields and then the only 2 soccer fields we have in the city of Santa Monica were overbooked. And those are going to probably stay artificial turf until we get new fields. So when you are reviewing the vision plan, the parks vision plan, the reason it's making a pretty big proposal for a lot of new field space, park space. It's open space and it's natural lands and things like that, but it's also soccer fields, or what we call rectangle fields, because it's soccer, rugby, lacrosse, football. We have 13 baseball and softball fields. We have 2 soccer fields in the city of Santa Monica that the city control. So if you have questions about this, I'm happy to share what we learned also at the Recreation and Parks Commission meeting and the Field Sports Advisory Committee meeting. So thank you for
Great.
that.
Thanks, Stephen. So we're trying to wrap up, but I do want to get to the questions on Zoom. So Brian and Hannah, and then we'll wrap up. So Brian.
All right, thank you so much, Diane. That was a wonderful presentation. I've got 2 questions. I'll try to give them to you quick. So the first one, I saw you were talking about LAUSD next month, November, is set to ban new installations of artificial turf, and also, which I thought was very exciting, prioritize the removal at elementary, middle schools, preschools. So my first question, I'll give you the second one as well. My first question is, I've been really struggling to understand while I'm generally against artificial turf, I've been found it very difficult to even understand the case for using it with small children. And I wondered if you could speak a little bit more to that, because small children don't weigh very much. They don't present much of a maintenance issue as a result because their heavy bodies aren't pounding on it, but all those health risks and bioaccumulation of plastics are compounded. So I'm just very confused, frankly, about how the direction that our district has been going. And then my second question is, I walk by Will Rogers Elementary School where the district put in turf about 2-3 years ago. And, forget microplastics, there's macroplastics. There's really trash on the sidewalk, the 2,000, 3,000 pounds that are shedding from these fields. And I know the city doesn't have much control over what the district does, but to me, it looks like the district is just littering on city property. And what I'm curious about, the city has its own stormwater system. These are right by stormwater drains. How concerned should the city be about the plastic that's shedding off of district property onto the city's assets? Thanks so much.
Okay, well, as far as kids are concerned, they are not small adults. They have developmental windows, and in fact, these developmental windows extend all the way through adolescence, and that is something that we are trying to impress upon LAUSD, to not bifurcate the younger grades from the upper grades, because these kids are still at risk for non-communicable diseases and cancers, as are younger children. The additional thing about kids, they're not going to tell you when they're overheated. They do not react the same to heat. And if a child has a heat-related illness or heat stroke, they are much more susceptible to recurring heat stroke, which is life-threatening, quite frankly. Like I mentioned, more and more kids every year are dying from heat stroke on these fields. There have been mass casualty events across the country on these fields, things like graduations, convocations. UC Davis had to evacuate during a graduation a couple of years because of the heat on these plastic fields. It's extraordinary. And these chemicals that leach off of these fields, they can be absorbed through the skin. Kids are on their hands and feet, or hands and knees, all the time. And they have hand-to-mouth behaviors. So not only are they absorbing through their skin, they're also ingesting. And then, of course, there's the off-gassing of all these chemicals that they're also exposed to. And so they're inhaling these chemicals. So, kids, their body surface area is greater in relationship to their size and their weight. And they have faster respiratory rates, cardiac, heart rates. So they're going to be more greatly impacted. But again, these developmental windows do not stop in the early elementary grades. And then what was your other question? I'm sorry. Oh, the stormwater.
You're good. Yes, the city water system.
Frankly, yes, it is highly polluting. And we know that a lot of these fields are tied into storm drains. And in fact, I'm speaking at a webinar in the Palisades on the 3rd, and we're going to have the LA Waterkeeper there. And before we had her secured to speak, I actually went through the process of pulling up the drainage system for Palisades Park up there and looking at the drop from the park down to the ocean. You can follow the drainage system all the way down to the ocean. And it's an 82-meter drop from the upper corner of the playing field there that they want to make into plastic and straight down to the ocean. So we know that, you know, again, these things are incredibly harmful. And there's also an ever increasing body of research that shows that PFAS and microplastics act synergistically. And we also know that just the blades alone constitute 12 to 15% of our near surface waters in waterways and the oceans. And that's based on research worldwide. We have so many countries that are reporting on this. San Francisco Estuary Institute repeatedly, since at least 2020, has been talking about artificial turf in the San Francisco Bay. They are not quantifying it like most of the research, but we know that they're also on the Green Ribbon panel for the Department of Toxic Substances Control. And I'm in communication with DTSC as well. I'm the one pulling the patents for them and the research articles to support the claims and the justification to increase the number of chemicals that they're going to regulate in synthetic turf. Talk to my chemistry friends and I get crickets, and so I'm the one left doing it.
Yes,
Does that
thank you
answer
so
your
much, Diane.
questions?
I appreciate it.
Sure.
Okay, honey, get the last word here.
Hi, yeah. Actually, can you go? Oh, never mind. I don't want you to pull up your presentation. When you were showing the side by side of the park, the airport park, I was just thinking about that park. I played there many years ago, back when I had time to play recreational soccer. And I remember, you know, all the times of the jets taking off and everything. And we all thought, oh God, yeah, this is probably terrible that we're breathing this, but whatever. It never occurred to me at the time that the pollutants from the airport might be landing on the plastic and we didn't think about plastic that way, like, you know, even 10 years ago. So I'm wondering, can you give any more information on why that might be like the worst place to put a field made of plastic?
Absolutely the worst place, because you not only have small planes there that use leaded aviation gas, avgas, and you also have jets that have jet fuel, which is kerosene based. And everybody can remember a few years ago when a China Airlines flight that was operated by Delta dumped jet fuel across multiple schools in Los Angeles. That was visible. Children and staff had to be transported to hospitals. They were having to bathe kids. That was visible. But what you're not seeing, it doesn't mean that it's not there. And in fact, I would also argue beyond the leaded avgas and jet fuel, there's also the high likelihood of AFFF, the aqueous film forming foam that is used to extinguish fires, or has been used to extinguish fires for many years. There's a high likelihood that has fallen on those fields as well. Now, if we were to request records to see what's going on as far as maintenance, I know that they're not doing the hardness testing there. I was told that by one of the coaches. He in fact told me nobody cares about that. Nobody does it. But if we were to look at how often they're cleaning those fields and what they're cleaning it with, you know, the warranties and the maintenance manuals call for toxic chemicals for cleaning. They call for glyphosate, they call for spectricide to abate weeds, mildew, and mold. This new non-infill turf claims a 12-year warranty. In fact, it only covers the high-use portions of the field for 2 years. So, you know, we all need to be acutely aware of the level of greenwashing that's going on. I promise I will never greenwash. And in fact, we're going to be meeting with the Office of the Attorney General as far as the recycling claims and the additional greenwashing that's going on. The Attorney General did bring a lawsuit against ExxonMobil for their lies about recycling. And that's someplace that at least one of these manufacturers, and some of us know who, are claiming to be recycling, when in fact, if anything, what they're doing is incinerating in an EJSJ community, by the way. Okay. And the other place where they're saying they're hauling it to in Louisiana is in Cancer Alley. So we have to give some consideration, not just what it's doing to the city of Santa Monica or the state of California, which has the lion's share of these fields, far more than any other state, and they're slamming them in as quickly as they can, knowing full well that regulation is coming and hopefully legislation.
Okay, well, thank you.
So yeah, I would be very concerned about putting plastic there again.
Yeah. Okay, so thanks so much for this presentation. So now we're going to work on drafting a resolution for the club based on what we heard here tonight. If anyone watching this wants to work on that draft text, just please let me know. Otherwise, we're going to email it out on our email blast to everyone before the next meeting, so everyone will have a chance to view it before we vote on it on November 12th. Reminder, this weekend, Prop 50 canvassing Saturday and Sunday. Saturday morning, 10 a.m., Reed Park. We're going to have our magic show fundraiser on Sunday afternoon. The next meeting, November 12th, at the Professional Development Learning Center down the block, 2802 4th Street. Michael Tubbs, Almar Tsuchi, Mike Gibson, Eric Strong, and our own city manager, Oliver Chi. The final membership meeting of the year, 2 weeks from tonight. We'll see you at the canvas. We'll see you at the magic show. We'll see you at next month's meeting. Happy birthday, Andrew Sprung. Thank you for your decades of service to the club. Dolly Sloan, we are adjourned.